emission
Yeah.
standards, how they've gone up, the program.
I'm ready. Helen?
I never knew that stuff.
Wayne? Rick? Everybody
We'll
ready?
talk more about it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Carver Town Selectmen meeting, November 13th, 2012. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Some announcements. There are openings on the following committees: Carver Cultural Council, Commission on Disability, the BDC, Finance Committee, Old Colony Regional Vote Tech School Committee, there's 2 positions there, Local Housing Partnership Committee, the Recreation Committee, ZBA Alternate, Carver Housing Authority State Representative, and a Growers Representative to the Earth Removal Committee. Please contact the Selectmen's Office for an application. Also, a reminder to all the residents out there, please dig deep and donate to the food pantry at the Council on Aging or at the public library where the collection centers are. Thank you. Appointments with possible votes, 7:10. We have to wait exactly till that.
For that, yes, that is an actual public hearing, yes.
How about if we take Ms. Cohen? Mrs. Cohen, I'm going to swear you in.
You might want to,
Request to be appointed.
you might want to appoint her first,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, but just a procedural issue.
Then go down and get sworn in. Come on up and sit down. And tell us about yourself, Michelle. You want to join the website committee, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Cohen. I live at 3 Leland Way. My application was for the website committee. I am not fully aware of what the website committee does, but I'm really eager to join and learn. I've realized over the past, couple of years as a new family in town that having access to what's going on in town is very important to the community itself. So I work for Harbor Medical Associates in Pembroke, and I work as a patient service representative. And for the past year and a half or so, I have worked with our IT department to create user-friendly application folders for the whole staff to use, basically, in order to make it a little bit easier for directions on how to do anything from booking and booking patients and doing anything like that. And I am the one to maintain this application for all of the users within the Harbor Medical. So.
Very good. Can I get a motion in a second? We'll open
Make a
this up.
motion to approve.
Second.
Point.
Have a second. Who would like to go first and ask some questions? Jack, want to start it?
No, I think she answered all my questions.
Sarah?
No, thank you for stepping forward.
Helen?
Thank you for stepping forward.
There's an echo in here.
It's just awesome that there's so many people, since I've been elected, that I have noticed have come forward and have called me and expressed their interest in joining committees. So I think you'll be awesome, Michelle, based on what you just told us. I think it'll be great. Thank you.
The reason we don't jump around asking you questions is because we want you and we don't want to scare you away. But yeah, if you look at our different committees and commissions, we need folks, and we need young folks.
Well, that's one of the reasons I think that I would be beneficial for this committee, is because I, happen to be a young new family in town, and I know what young new families need and are looking for, especially on the town websites. I've gone to other town websites, and I have some good ideas about how we can maybe work with updating ours a little bit. There was one in particular that I had seen, and I'm not sure if it was Wareham or Kingston or Plymouth, but they had a tool that was, how do I find, or where can I find, and it's a tab on the side where you can just click on it and it goes alphabetical on everything from applications to recreational departments and everything like that. So I just thought that would
Search mechanism?
be, yeah, it's a search mechanism, but it makes it a lot easier and user-friendly for, you know, the public.
Well, I certainly hope that, you know, we need to take care of the young families in town, but I hope you won't forget us old people. The onset of dementia and Alzheimer's, and
Well,
make it accessible for us too, please.
I work with all generations
Right.
in my office, and I've made it very, well, I don't mean it like,
As long as one of those is,
Correct, Michelle, politically
is it-
correct.
how do I get rid of old
Set you
people?
up for that.
no, Mr. Forrester knows that I work with everybody in my office, and I've made it very user-friendly for everybody.
I'm impressed with the customer service aspect of your background. I think that'll lend itself very well to the group that's there, so thank you very much. Do you have any questions for us?
Nope.
Great, we're getting off easy. Anybody else have anything? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. We got you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for coming forward.
Now you can go down and get sworn in.
Town clerk.
Town clerk.
Actually,
Gene's got to do a letter, or Elaine's
yeah,
got to do a
she
letter.
won't do anything without a letter from us, right, so,
Michelle,
yeah.
Gene or Elaine's got to do a letter and send it down. So, you know, give them a couple of days, a week or whatever, and then go ahead down and get
Give
sworn.
Elaine till at least till 11.
Prior to before your next, prior to before your next meeting, okay? All right, we're closing in on 7:10, so we got a public hearing. Landmark Auto Sales request for 3 vehicles, Class 2 Internet-only license to be located at 38R1 North Main Street, Carver. There will be no display of vehicles, and we have this set up for a potential vote. Anybody here to represent Landmark? Okay. We can put that on the back burner and wait and see, give them a little time, or? No?
Yeah, I wouldn't let too much time go
Yeah.
by. I would say certainly by the.
Are we inhibited by the standards of law that they, 7:10 or not at all, or?
Yeah, well, no, I would suggest you couldn't do it before 7:10, but I would also suggest that by 7:30, if we don't have an applicant here, then
Okay. Table it and,
early, just in case, so.
Mr. Terrells, we have to hold off on yours until 7:25, unfortunately, because of the laws involved. So we're gonna skip around you a little bit. Please do not be offended by that. Okay, how about the 2013 license renewals? Can we zip through that?
Absolutely.
Oh, my.
I didn't bring my gun either.
Is he an applicant for a committee?
Love that.
Rick, did someone check and see if all the taxes were paid on these parcels?
They're highlighted, Jack.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
and usually the board would always make that a condition of the votes.
Rick, are you gonna be presenting this, discussing this, or?
I'm still looking to get there, Mr. Chairman.
Let me ask you a question, Rick. If they owe taxes, if they enter into a payment agreement with me, will that suffice to grant them their license?
That has always been the case.
Okay.
You know, as I said earlier, every year, inevitably, there are some taxes due on some of these license holders, and the board always votes to make it contingent upon payment of taxes. But that's probably not a bad point, Jack.
Yeah,
I can't
because of the
recall
economy and
specifically.
stuff, yeah.
But you will also know there is a bylaw that this town has accepted, I think back in the mid-1990s,
Yeah.
that allows boards and committees to withhold, suspend, or revoke licenses and permits for non-payment of taxes. But that also allows for a agreement with the collector in lieu of payment of taxes. So in the spirit of that vote by the town, I think it would be appropriate for that to be part of whatever motion is made ultimately, so. But as of right now, all of the licenses have been picked up in the office. I know several weeks ago, we had discussed some of the outstanding ones, and those have been picked up and paid now too, so. So these are all in condition to be actually renewed and not new licenses.
So, we want to renew the ones that have paid their taxes. And what do we want to do with those that are still up in the air?
Well, I think you should, because of the time frame, you could either wait till December 4th, but it's usually easier to just vote them contingent upon payment of taxes,
Okay.
or, as Jack mentioned, a payment agreement when placed with the clerk,
That's what I'm looking for.
you know.
Can we get a motion on that, Jack?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2013 license renewals, and specifically the ones that owe taxes, as long as they have a payment agreement with the treasurer tax collector.
I'll second that.
And contingent upon payment. Like some you don't have on a tax plan, but they still owe taxes, right?
It was either an agreement or a payment, right?
Okay.
Plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna allow them to enter into a payment agreement with
Yep.
with my office.
Okay, but they still have another month to pay, right?
Yeah,
That's correct.
Theoretically,
and also they would have to pay the full fee for the license as
Sure.
well.
yeah.
You're not gonna give them the license until they
We
pay
never
the
do.
full fee.
That's right.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. I think, Elaine, were you able to decipher that and put that together in
You'll find out,
legible,
you'll find out at your next meeting.
grammatical correctness? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? It's unanimous. How about the fishing tournament request for the use of Sampson's Pond? Rod Jockey's Bass Club of Cape Cod and Mass Bass Federation Nation.
I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. These are pretty standard from groups every year. I don't think we've had any issues or problems that I can recollect. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. How about if we move on to the approval of minutes, September 25th and October 16th?
Wasn't it two fishing tournaments, Mike?
Yes, there was. I thought we voted them collectively, Jack.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, please correct me. All right, we have the minutes from September 25th and October 16th. Does anybody have any particular issues with either or?
I have one recommendation. Can bear with me.
Yes, ma'am? So we'll take them individually then? if we-
yeah.
Okay. Let's go with September 25th. Any changes on that?
No.
I do.
All right,
And I
Mr.
raised it last time, and I think Sarah had an issue with it. It was on the building commissioner position on page 2.
Yep.
In the parentheses, it said the handout did not include the number of inspections. It did. I had it on my spreadsheet. I have it here if anyone wants to see it. It included it in every year. I got it right from the town reports.
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I could be wrong, but I don't believe the town reports documents the number of inspections. Those are the number of permits.
Well,
We
it's-
don't know how many times he individually went out to a place for an inspection.
He reported in each town report inspections for the year. That's what I got right from the town reports.
Okay.
So if you look in the town reports, it will say, under each year, inspections for the, and it'll have the number there. That's how I came up with that.
So you're recommending, Mr. Franny, that the comments in parentheses be removed?
Stricken, yes.
Do we have any other comments regarding that? Hearing none.
Mike, I'm sorry.
Yep.
You were looking that way.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So in the same section, these are both very minor, but Ms. Wertz says, Ward reminded everyone that the building commissioner is also the enforcement officer. I think that should read zoning enforcement officer. And then 2 lines down, it says there are currently replacement officers. I thought it should be clear that they're temporary part-time, they're not really a replacement. I don't know, that's
Just change the language on that.
just my take on
Is
it.
that a
Yeah.
problem, Elaine?
Mhm.
Okay. So why don't we change that to read temporary part-time? Anything else, ma'am?
And then on the last page, under citizens' participation, he stated he would like an investigation. He also said that he'd looked through the building department's files and would like an investigation.
Where was that?
Where are we at?
Under citizens' participation, second sentence. No, and that was it.
Okay. Mr. Belbin had requested the investigation, and I suggested to him that there was no way that we could go back and
Correct. Yep.
find anything. So what was the change that was?
Oh, it was just that he had also said that he'd looked through the building department's files
Oh.
and would like an investigation.
Okay, you looked through the files, okay. Anybody have anything else or any comments about the current changes? You have all those, Elaine? Okay. All right, hearing no other comments, we have a motion to accept the September 25th.
Motion to approve as amended.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the September 25th minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. All right, moving on to the October 16th. Do we have any comments or recommended changes for these?
I do,
Yes, ma'am?
please. This is under the audit committee update. Second page of it. Last paragraph where it starts with Maroney stated this is secondary. Further down, it states that Hewen stated she is recusing herself from the vote and left the meeting. I think it should be a little clearer that says Hewen stated she was recusing herself for her own reasons from the vote.
Thank you. Thank you. You're right.
Okay. Anything else?
That was it.
Dick? Jack?
I just had one, on the selectmen's notes. Franny asked, okay, he also brought in a bag of groceries and challenged the rest of the board to bring in
Oh, gee.
same for the food pantry at every Board of Selectmen meeting this winter. You just put this winter.
I'm sorry. Which paragraph, Mr.
The
Franny?
guilt.
It's the, on the selectmen's notes, second sentence. He also brought in a bag of groceries and challenged the rest of the board to bring in the same for the food pantry every Board of Selectmen meeting this winter.
He even has a smirk on his face.
Yeah.
Okay, so every board meeting.
Well, I already know that Dick already gives, so maybe we can give him an exemption.
Well, how do you know that the rest of us don't give?
Well, you probably do, but, you know, I think it would be nice to keep reminding people that
Some-
this is
some
such a
people-
critical time
Some
in
people
people's lives.
choose to keep their charitable
Yeah,
donations and secret.
I think if we keep it out in the open, it will keep reminding people.
We do.
And it's,
Every
yeah.
meeting we do.
yeah.
Okay, any other changes? Hearing none. We have a motion on this? And a second?
Motion to approve as amended.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, right?
Second.
Okay, to approve as amended. No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay? Unanimous, dear. Okay, Mr. Terrell, if you would be kind enough to come up to the electric chair. Yeah, the hot seat. I'm sure there's a multitude of names for that position over there. A lot. Catch your breath.
Catch my breath.
Relax for a minute. We're almost at 7:25. I didn't want to start something else and run past, so.
What, we got 2 minutes till 7:25?
Make you sweat it out, Jack. Read your notes. Mr. Terrell, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well,
Where do you live?
Michael Terrell, 37 Fosdick Road.
Yep.
And I have a repair facility behind my house that I've done since 1984 when I bought the house. In 2000, they grandfathered me a commercial garage license there. And I've been out there every day since.
What is the place across the street from you?
Lopez, Tony's Auto Repair.
Is that what that is? Yeah.
It's pretty much closed.
Yeah.
He works for N-Star, I think.
It's got a lot of vehicles and stuff out there still, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. We're almost there. Deep breath. Everybody in the audience, join in, please. All right, what we have tonight is public hearing for Michael Terrell, DBA Mike's Auto Frame request for a four-vehicle Class II license to be located at 37 Fosdick Road, Carver, Mass. Storage of up to 4 vehicles with no display. Special permit granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals and filed with the town clerk on September 27, 2012. And this is up for a possible vote. Okay, tell us what's going on, Mr. Terrell.
Well, I just wanted to add the used car license to my already existing business, just so I have the capability to go in the auction, getting a dealer plate, and maybe buying some fixer-uppers and rolling them over. Basically, that's it. Just adding another tool to the toolbox, so to speak.
Sure. In this economy, that's probably...
Yeah, and with no display, I didn't ask for display because, believe it or not, I don't want to park them out front and have people knocking on my door at 9 o'clock at night either.
Yeah.
You know? So, if I can advertise them and control it, that's kind of the way I want to do it.
All right, well, I'll accept the motion on this and a
Motion
second.
to approve.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on it? Mr. Franny?
Now,
start
I
with you.
know that you're gonna advertise on the internet, so you'll be selling them over the internet
Yep.
as well?
And, you know, word of mouth. If you know
Okay.
somebody needs a car, give me a shout.
Okay.
Sarah?
So, Mike, currently, just so the public, the audience knows, how are you fixed there? Are they, behind your house, behind a,
Behind the house, and there's some fences that
Okay.
blocks it. You really can't see too much from the street.
okay.
I don't think there'll be any, with 4 cars, used cars, license, I don't think you'll notice any difference in what's going on now.
Okay,
They'll blend.
thank you.
Dick?
I think Mike is a very reputable citizen and
Thank you.
on the fire department and such, and so I think he would be a man of his word in such as this.
Ms.
Yeah,
Brown?
reading through this, I mean, you've been in business since 1984 with a great reputation, no complaints. Good luck.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
First, actually, because Elaine Bray raised the question, so I wasn't smart enough to think of it, but Mike, when are you looking to begin the operation? And the reason I raised that is because the renewals are coming up
Yeah, I don't,
January 1, and if they approve you tonight, you weren't on the renewal list 10 minutes ago, so you would be without a license effective January 1, so are you looking to begin before January 1? Are you looking to start
no, it
effective
doesn't,
January 1?
well, once I get the license approval, I have to apply, I want to apply for a dealer license, and I have to register at auctions if I want to do that. So that's going to take a while anyway. So
Okay.
I don't know if I can apply for the dealer plate. It might be better to start everything the first of the year.
Well, that would, I think, would be easier for us, because then you wouldn't have to come back for a renewal either.
Well, that's fine with me, because actually, if I apply for a dealer plate, which I really don't want to do it without the dealer plate, because you can't move the cars around, that may be the same situation. Starts at the first of the year.
Okay.
How much does it cost for the license?
100?
Had to ask, didn't I?
Have to ask a lot of things, Jack. More and more every day, so
So waiting till the beginning of the year will save you $100 too.
that's a good point, yeah.
Well, in light of how much time is left remaining in the year, it's
Yeah,
probably in
it's
your
not,
best
a whole
interest.
lot's not going to happen. Nobody's going to be buying cars at Christmas time anyway.
So we make the motion effective the 1st of January,
Right.
2013?
Also, don't forget, this is a public hearing too, so
Yeah,
don't
right.
forget to take that input, but July, that would be helpful, Mr. Ward.
So, Mr. Chair, does that, it says here on the license renewals that we just voted, it mentions Mike's business pending granting of license at 11/13 BOS meeting. So that's,
It's getting a little
Diff-
removed from
Oh. Okay,
I think it'd be a lot cleaner.
okay, so, all right, never mind.
We good?
I'm fine.
Open it up to the public. Does anybody have any questions, issues, comments, complaints? Mr. Forrester, come on up and sit at the table. Identify yourself for the audience, please.
Just sit down.
Please.
Rod Forrester, 13 Lincoln Circle, Cranberry Village. I just want to make a quick comment that to welcome you and wish you the best of luck. We need all the businesses we can get in Carver, and I hope you do tremendous business.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, and thank you for your service with the fire department, too.
Thank you.
God bless.
Anybody else? Gerard, you want to say anything bad or good about your father? Or
That's coming.
cooler heads prevail? Okay. All right, hearing no further comments, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Good luck, Mike.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do I have to give this to somebody?
Yes, leave it here. Verify whether or not this was a legal hearing.
How about if we move right along to the discussion on the Zero Wade Street property? Is anybody here to discuss that?
I was gonna say, you wanna hold it up? I mean, if somebody saw our agenda at 8 o'clock,
Yeah,
Yes.
you
that's what-
wanna
yeah.
maybe talk on it?
30.
Neighbors, such?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if we had anyone show up yet for the 7:10. I don't know if, I haven't noticed anybody.
Anybody from Landmark Auto Sales? Well, I'm gonna suggest that we table that, and if, we'll renew the discussion on it if and when we can get a commitment for them to show up.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. I don't know if, Elaine, you want to contact them tomorrow or something and just say, hey? Yeah, we're gonna run into some issues here with some of this stuff.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Can I bring up the power purchase agreement?
Well, they're supposed to be coming too,
Are
so,
they?
yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chair, as I told you, Mary O'Donnell is stuck in.
Here
Here she
she
is.
comes.
There she is.
You were right on key, Mr. Hunter.
That was
Mary O'Donnell was stuck, but she's here now. God bless you.
I don't know how they do these.
All right.
In Virginia.
You are perfect timing, ma'am. Would you and your representative like to come up and sit at the hot seat up here?
I did, thank you. Here, I'll move over. Good evening.
Good evening, how you doing?
I got my packet all mixed up
Oh,
now.
I know. That's what I'm-
All right, Ms. O'Donnell, would you please identify yourself for our home audience?
Sure.
So they know who you are and why you're here?
Mary O'Donnell from No Fossil Fuel.
And we are here to talk about a power purchase agreement with No Fossil Fuels, Ms. O'Donnell's company, and a discussion and a possible vote on that. Mr. Hunter has some information for us.
Yeah, if you recall, I don't think it was your last meeting, maybe the meeting prior, you chose Mary's firm as your preferred power purchase agreement customer, I guess is the right way to put it. We sent her draft power purchase agreement to town council. They do have an attorney who specializes in these type of things. Been working with him with the parameters that you set on this agreement. November 2nd, it was sent to Mary's attorney, and we received her attorney's comments this afternoon at about 12:20, and we just don't have enough time to respond. So we're there. I think, the concept is there. I don't think there's any issues, but we're just not there yet.
Your attorney, our attorney sent your attorney he made his comments, went back to our attorney and back, and they've been on the back and forth and back and forth and back.
Problem.
As attorneys do.
And they keep pressing that button, too.
And we all know that anytime you get the attorneys involved, that everything goes to hell in a handbasket.
I know, but here's the good news, is that they don't have any real issues left.
I agree
What,
with that.
what our in-house counsel said is that the bill just isn't high enough yet, because coming tonight, I thought, isn't it great, we can put a bullet in it real fast? And he said, no, Mary, the bill isn't up high enough yet. But I think that Jack made it very clear to everybody that this wasn't a open book, which I was really happy about, because my attorney's very expensive too. And that if there aren't any issues, let's move it.
What I would like to do is I would like to get a motion in a second from the board. That way we can open it for discussion. If they have any questions, they can ask and put some of this
A motion for what?
to approve.
I mean, how can we approve it tonight if we haven't read it?
Well, Mr. Hunter has some recommendations
Well,
on
I
that.
had three, I talked to the chairman right before the meeting. I had 3 ideas. I'm not an expert in
Yeah.
parliamentary procedure. I'll leave that to the town administrator. But you could either authorize 2 of you, perhaps the chair and someone else, to sign it if approved by you.
Based on meeting all the criteria
Parameters.
from the attorneys
You
and stuff,
could
okay?
wait till your next meeting, whenever that is. I don't even know when that is.
The 4th.
Okay, or you could have a special meeting. They're the 3 things I could think of.
I would prefer to wait till our next meeting so that we all have a chance to read it. And you said you're not there yet, so there's a few more things you have to tweak in it?
Yeah, and if you saw, I forwarded you guys, I know it was late, because I got it late, the
Yeah.
email from town council, and they just he wants to talk to us, but he was busy today, and he wants to talk to me about what his issues are,
Yeah.
but I don't think any of them are big. I
So we could
really
go,
don't.
we could go ahead and read this, and then you could just give us whatever the tweaking is,
Right, that's correct.
or email
Well-
it to us.
That's why we're talking about approving it contingent upon that, Jack. So we don't have to wait till the next meeting. If they meet all the questions in here, we can just go ahead and move forward on this.
Here's one thing that I just wanted not to
Yeah.
interrupt, but I'm interested in you doing it that way because that makes Carver the host, which is really important because it means you control the credits. And that's the best seat. So you were my first, you were the, I have a long history with the town and with even the name Carver, seeing that's my name, Mary Carver. I'd like you to be the host because that's the best way to be.
Well, I want to learn what it is to be the host, and I want to dot every I and cross every T and make sure we don't make an error along the way. I feel it would be better if we had an opportunity to read it through and educate ourselves on it.
I
I
was
kind of
also,
agree with Mr. Franny.
I was just gonna say, when we did have a phone conference with the attorney, he had some concerns about being a host. He wasn't good or bad, he just had some concerns about liability, and if you see your email that you got this afternoon, he mentions that in his email, that Mary wants you to be the host, and he wants to talk about that.
Yeah, what does that define? what
I don't
that
know
means.
enough
I wouldn't say
about
what
it.
a host is.
Yeah.
Because under the Mass General laws and with the net metering credits, so you can only have one, there's a host customer that really controls the net metering credits. So you're the one that that gives them out to, there will be other customers, other towns. There's, well, what it is going to be the Silver Lake Regional School Committee in Kingston. But whoever, so they're going to want in fact, they're going to end up getting more credits than you are. But let's say that you had a month that you had used a lot, so you would use all the credits you want and as the host, and then send off whatever you didn't want. So that's why it's really nice to be it's like anything else. If you're the chair of the board, or you're on the board versus if you're just a resident, the residents have some rights and board members have other rights. So you have more rights as the host. Is there any more financial liability to it? No, you still only take what you want to take.
Mary, if I may, through you, Mr. Chair.
Good.
Would there be any administrative processes that Carver would then be responsible for being a host?
You would you would receive the payment, and yes, you would be responsible for taking your own and sending out, because they would send you their bills, so they would go back to them. So yes, is there any, that, yes, but they also have it. In addition to that, the DPU is running a, Michael, is it December 6th, or when it got moved to? Where they're gonna teach all of us, and that was one of the things I wanna do tonight, is to invite whoever you wanna send off, whether it be,
That's town, yeah. Sorry, that's our special town meeting day. Excuse me, Mr.
December
it's in the
6th.
daytime, it's in the daytime. And so we've invited Silver Lake, and we're inviting Marshfield, whoever they want to delegate, because they're going to explain exactly how the billing and all that works through them.
Can I interject? Helen is exactly right. It is gonna be more responsibility. Is it a lot? I don't know. The one thing Mary is right about, though, is that if we have more capacity within our agreement, we can take it all and just divvy out what's left to the other communities or school districts. But it is more responsibility.
We
And
maintain.
I don't know enough about it.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
it's like a loan, we maintain the first position on it,
That's
so.
something like that.
Right.
Right.
So does that mean that in the reverse, if we weren't the major company and there weren't enough credits to meet our needs, we'd be short?
That's correct.
I've been intent on you being the host since day one. It would be better for you. But I agree that everything has to be worked out. Jack has to say, okay, they've done everything. I'm not asking you to sign it tonight. I'm just saying, vote that you are at some point, so that you are the host. Because I have a meeting Thursday night with somebody else.
And you need some commitment from us.
Well, it's real simple. It's like everything else in business. Whoever commits first gets it.
Mary, I have to be honest, this kind of shakes me up a little bit in the respect of my original decision on this, because I was under the impression that we'd get a certain amount of net metering credits, every month or what have you. But now it seems to me if we don't become a host, it changes the intent of the original discussion.
It's a 10 megawatt facility. So we have enough in the course of the year, there is enough. But as you well know, in electricity, some months it's more than others. You just get a better opportunity to be in control. I think it's always nice, maybe because I'm a control freak, I always think it's nice to be in control. But yeah, would you still at the end get it? Yes, you would, but maybe it would be, you'd have to subsidize, pay some cash some months. I don't know. It's just, sometimes it makes more electricity than other times. But all I know is, as the host, you certainly get all your needs met immediately all the time, because you would be getting monthly amounts of net metering credits that will come into the town, and then you're in charge of giving them out.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may, I had the same question that Helen had. I think there's just a lot of questions here. This is a 20-year agreement, and, you don't get out of that very easily. And I just prefer to read this, make sure our council is okay with it, and I'm not like against it or anything. I know. It's just, to vote it I just think it's too soon.
Jack?
Well, maybe to Mary, this is not choreographed at all or scripted, but is December 4th, you said? Is December 4th, is there a reason that's too long? And if it is, maybe you could share that with them, and maybe they'd entertain a special meeting if necessary.
No, it's not, no. I mean, you can take as much time as you want. Just have another meeting to go Thursday. That's all.
Well,
Listen,
is
you
there-
don't have to, here's the really thing is, this is a moneymaker for you. It's not a question, is it gonna cost you, is it gonna hurt you? This is I said to someone, I've never had such a hard time giving away millions of dollars. I mean, I feel like it's kind of nuts. But I get that, it's a town, everyone's afraid. No one's asking you to do anything that's, no one's gonna sign anything until town council says it's okay. So it's just a question of, if you're going to do it, why would you keep on kicking the ball when you're not having, nobody's asking this board to sign anything tonight. What we're saying is that, yes, we want that money, we're also voting for renewable clean energy, all the reasons why you wanted to do it in the first place. But what you're saying is, yes, we're the first ones that are committing to it whenever the lawyers work it out. And then whatever that you want to do. But if you don't want to do it, that's okay.
It's not that we don't want to do it, it's just that we had this dropped on our laps just a few minutes ago. And I like to read everything and find out everything that's in there. And the last time you appeared, you never mentioned anything about being a host. And there also can be a lot more.
TPU just changed that.
Well,
It
there
didn't
could
used to
be a lot
that
more
way.
work involved in it than what we anticipate it will be. So I think everyone knows what my view is that I want to read it first and read it thoroughly. And if we miss the opportunity to be a host, so be it.
Okay.
Can we vote something on being a host community pending the completion of the contract with the attorneys?
That's exactly what I thought you were doing. I thought you were saying that you're voting to do this pending the attorneys and Jack Hunter, or whoever your representative is.
But with all due respect, Mary, and through the chair, this host thing, I think I can hear you guys need a handle on it. I need a handle on it. I don't know enough about it. I see the pluses and the minuses, but I want to be more clear on it. And that December 6th
I see the
workshop
future
seems-
need of a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just accept payments and act nonchalant about it. And totally for this, we agreed to it. But now there's been a little bit of a wrench put into it, and I'm just seeing down the road, you know, and what happens if a payment's not received from another town? Who's gonna go after them?
No, they
It's-
don't pay, the other town doesn't pay you. Let me tell you, Kingston is the host for my win, so I do know about, a little bit about it. The money comes in, and then the town takes, in my case, and in your case, is gonna take your percentage off the top, and you send out the rest. So it's
And
the
what
same
happens
thing.
if we make a mistake? Would there be a liability against the town of Carver? Jack, these are just all the
Yeah.
types of questions now that are
You know what?
triggering in my mind. Yeah.
I would assume if you make a mistake, you're gonna rectify it with the other town, but there's nothing in the contract that says, that anticipates you making a mistake, and nor was it in the contract with Kingston that what happens if they made a mistake. So I certainly read that contract too. If you make a mistake, at some point, the CPA, someone's gonna pick it up, and if it's between you and, let's say, it's, the town of Marshfield, or Silver Lake, or the county commissioners, these are all people that are in line to get the net metering credits, that you'll work it out amicably, like as you would anything else.
Mary, in all due respect, I've been looking through attorney's bills over the past 3 weeks, and I have to
Now you
say,
see some mistakes.
no, but there is a bigger proportion of our attorney's fees that go out on complaints that things could have been resolved amicably and they never were, and we're talking thousands of dollars. So I guess it's my lending background that I need
Sure.
things in writing, and to say, you can't say that, oh, you'll work it out amicably in the future. You know, to me, it has to be in writing. What happens if the town of Carver makes a mistake that we would not be held liable, something like that? And again, I'm not downing this
Right.
project, we agreed to it.
Sure.
It's just that I think that we all want to have the opportunity to read through this.
Sure, and I think that exactly is the thing that the attorneys would be continuing to work back and forth. I think that the purpose that what I thought that we were doing tonight is that you were voting that once all those issues were, that somebody, that we wouldn't have to, let's say they got done in the next 2 or 3 days, that we wouldn't have to wait to another meeting, that somebody here, or 2 people here, had the authority to sign. That's what I thought was what was on the table. If that's not, which also left you in line to be the host or not to be the host, because that can also be worked out.
Wha-
So I
once-
think it's sort, if, as far as how I see it, it's sort of like a win-win for you, because if for some reason that you read it in the next couple of days, you talk to the attorney, you talk to Jack, and you don't want to be, that's okay too. Doesn't preclude you from not getting the net metering credits. It was me that was really pushing for you to be the host, because I would want to be one.
Let me make sure I understand this, Mary.
Okay.
As the host community, we would take in all the receipts.
All the net metering credits would come to you. So
Okay.
they're like all having the green stamps or the paid gift card.
Right.
You get all the gift cards.
But who's gonna handle this function in the town?
Well, that's what.
Yeah.
And how much does it
Ronnie's
involve?
asking.
That's
It's
the
a good
question.
question.
That's a
Treasurer
good job
collector
for
usually
Jack's
does
office.
it.
Who pays your bills? First of all, none of these things get paid until they would get, you would approve them. Don't
assume-
you approve all your bills? It would be
assume it-
nothing other.
Yes.
We do.
It's nothing different than that, except you wouldn't send a check, you send the credits. That's the only difference, instead of a check.
But I mean, what kind of accounting
It
practices?
would
and-
go to the accountant's office, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Who pays your
you wanna talk?
electricity bills?
Well,
I mean,
goes
who
through the
gets
accounting, the accounting
literally-
department is,
Yeah.
Well, no, the accounting department would have to approve the payments, but generally it will go to an department that would put something together,
Be the board of
and then it depends on,
Well, what I'm looking at is, I'm trying to figure out, we're pretty lean on staffing to begin with.
Right.
So who picks up this function and who's responsible for this?
It's whoever normally would pays your bills. It's nothing different than how you paying your bills now, other than that you're gonna have a surplus.
So it's not an extensive management function that has to be performed? Mr. Fournette is also with Ms. O'Donnell, yeah.
He's the CFO.
Hi, my name is Michael Fournette. I'm the CFO for, you want me
Wanna
to pull up
sit?
a chair?
Well, you can sit on the hot seat.
Oh, great. And just to bring some clarity, I've been handling this aspect with being the liaison between the town of Kingston and no fossil fuel. So all the heavy lifting mostly goes to no fossil fuel. And when the credits come in, everything comes in from NSTAR. And then they give it to us. And then if there's any problems, no fossil fuel's watching over this because they have an interest in making this all happen, because eventually the money, comes to us as well. So it's, it's basically two parties. So no fossil fuel has a responsibility to make sure everyone gets paid. So the heavy lifting is mostly done by no fossil fuel. So if there's any issues, which, there's been a missed payment in the past, it got quickly resolved the next, couple of weeks, next month. It was really not a big deal. You have the reports about how much production, according to NSTAR, of the electricity that's happened, and, you can send that along. And, everyone has that same report from NSTAR. So, it's really, I wouldn't get hampered on, the actual operation. The operation will be smooth, you won't need extra staffing. The majority will all be done, most likely by me, because that's what I do anyway for the town of Kingston.
You're the CFO for
The
No
CFO
Fossil.
for No Fossil.
do the credits come in electronically or paper?
No, it's actually, we actually got a deal, we were the last people to get a deal for cash in lieu of credit, so they come in the form of checks.
But these will come in form
These
of
will,
credits.
right,
So
credits.
you'll use those credits. Like say, to make it easy, you have a $10,000 bill, then you use $10,000 worth of your credits to pay
Right.
your bill.
The
So you
credits are gift certificates to use towards your utility bill. That's really all it is. So it's like handing out a gift certificate to other towns.
But as the host community, are we required to distribute those above and beyond what we use to the other users?
to the other towns, but see, that's where the good part is. So if you want to use 11,000 this month, then you take your 11,000 and there's 11,000 left, or 8,000 left, or 6, or whatever is left, then you would send that off. You'd keep yours and send the rest off. Yes.
If we were not the host community, but we had signed up for like 3 megawatts of power a month,
You'd wait for them to send it to you.
could they shortchange us and send us less than we,
Then you wanted that month, yes, because they're
they're the
yes.
host community?
They're the host, and so they get them all, and it's up to, then, they have to, by contract, they're gonna have to give you what you've subscribed to by the end of the year, yes. But
But on a monthly basis, it could
monthly ba-
deviate.
right, right.
So if we're not a host community, we are pretty much guaranteed that we're going to get what was stated in our contract.
Right, by the end, there's an
Within the
accounting
year.
by the end of the year, yes. Yes.
So
But
what, can you just summarize again then, because what the benefit is of being a host? Because it sounds like you said the host can take whatever they need, but it sounds like that's more on a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis, yes.
So,
But
but
it's
over the
capped
course
though,
of a
right? To your
year,
maximum.
It,
You can't take more than you've,
Precisely.
Right.
But now here's another stipulation to be concerned about.
Could you speak more into the
Sorry.
microphone?
The 10 megawatt max that each town has, that's based on the facility output of, in AC, which gets really technical. There's AC and DC, but essentially you have our DC production of our facility is, 6 megawatts. You'll never, ever use 10 megawatts AC in capacity. It's impossible. I mean, unless you build a town and facilities triple the size of this place. So it's almost like, your usage that Massachusetts has given you is not going to go to, it's going to go to waste essentially. So why wouldn't you is really what we're getting into. So you can only ever get credited for what your annual usage is. So that's a really key point. Whatever your usage and what your electricity bill is, that's all you'll ever get. But you do have the ability to be a host customer in 10 megawatts AC, which is way more than you'll ever have. So that's something to keep in mind.
I think that one of the biggest benefits to you is that you get to control, as it comes in, how much you want that month. So you never have to subsidize it in money if you have enough credits. That's the whole point. And yet, if it's producing and you have signed up for 3 megawatts and it ends up producing more and you need more, you're in a position to use more. Just say you're in charge, that's all. That's what's really good about it. Whatever we're doing doesn't still preclude that can still be the host customer. I guess what I'm just saying is if you want to just vote on that, you still have to obviously have the attorneys and you look at it, whatever you want to do. It's just that
Yeah, but after the attorneys look at it and get it all straightened out, then I want to look at it. That's what it comes down to. So that's why I would rather have the opportunity to reread the whole thing and before I'd put my stamp of approval on it.
Right, no, I hear. And I was hearing from the attorney this afternoon that your attorney was going someplace, and they were chatting on the phone, and there didn't appear to be any real issues. So you should be getting that very soon. So hopefully you'll get it in the next day or so.
and just depending on how we all vote, I'm gonna be very open and say that I would want a clause in this contract stating that if we do choose to be the host community, that the town of Carver will not be held liable for any mistakes or mishaps, that may happen in terms of the billing or us being the host, that we will not be held liable, that it will go back to no fossil fuel.
I think that's a very good point, and I think you should absolutely put it in the part of the contract.
Yeah,
And
well, that's
I
what I
don't,
mean, just so it's.
I don't think that's a problem. There's no problem. That's not a problem. Yeah, good.
any further questions?
Comment. If this contract comes through, is there a possibility that we could have a special meeting to move forward so that we could be the host community?
I'm sorry, I was writing.
It's, I'm just saying that when the lawyers are done and they come back with the contract completed, to December 4th is what? That's 3 weeks? 3 weeks? I mean, I'm just thinking that if it was completed and we could have a quick meeting to vote it and then maybe still be the host community.
Sure. I don't have.
I'm just thinking in terms of, okay, I did have a question. If we chose, for one reason or another, to take more than our quoted, whatever you call them, units,
Net metering credits.
okay?
Right.
If we took more a couple of months, would we still have to scale back so that our total for the year was the same as we contracted for?
Right, you would,
We would.
you would.
So that can go both ways.
Unless the facility was producing more than what we, if we had a really a banner year,
Mhm.
or if one of the other facilities didn't use up to their capacity, you would have that ability to do it, but you wouldn't be mandated to do it. But that's another reason why, as the host, you would have the first dibs, and say, you could always get on the phone and say, do you really need all these, or are you gonna use them? I have to say, chances are, when people really get what they're getting, which is money for basically doing nothing, people aren't gonna give them up. They're gonna, whatever they've committed for, they're gonna want it. It's cash in the bank for doing nothing. You're basically, every time someone turns on the light, you're getting 2 or 3 cents for turning on the light. For what you're using anyway, and you would have paid for it anyway, you're getting subsidized through the Green Communities Act. For the state pushing to do green, and for people like me that put it through the cities and towns because it makes our whole business proposal financeable. Because cities and towns have more creditworthy than I do, and that's something. So that's how these deals make. Without partnering, which is really what we're doing. We're partnering. The state really is giving the developer a higher rate for making clean energy. And we're sharing it with you because you're giving us a 20-year contract that the banks recognize. So, is another town, once they start making the money and they catch on what's really going on, are they gonna give you more than, no. The only risk that you would run is that we had a good bumper year, the sun was really shining, global warming was really, really global warming, and there's gonna be more sunshine, and they make more solar, or for some reason we were able to add on, or whatever happened, then we would come back and say, here it is.
And I probably shouldn't do this, but I might be interested in attending that seminar.
Great.
Yeah.
You actually aren't, you're in the, which office are you in?
Treasurer collector.
You really should be the one to go. You really should be the one to go.
See ya.
Yeah, if you
As long
could.
as I can be back in time for special town meeting.
You would leave whenever, and
You get Jack the information.
we will, because you have,
Maybe-
it's going to be in the
Maybe I'll
Federal
drag
Reserve.
Jack along with me.
Yeah, no, it would be good for the
It's
two
on a
of you to be
Thursday.
there.
That would be
You
gotta go to
vacation time,
special
right,
town
Jack?
Well, no, it's something he really needs for the town, and it's in the Federal Reserve. The reason why it's in the Federal Reserve Bank is because they expect so many people to come, because all the cities and towns that are involved in this, they have the same questions of, the logistics of it, so it's important.
So you
that
get me
be
the
there.
information, talk to Jack,
Yeah,
and he can get it.
and because we need all your information, because you have to sign in, and you have to be
Right.
pre-approved to get in the
You
building.
have to RSVP.
Yeah, so we will RSVP your name
Okay.
All right, so when is your meeting with Kingston?
Thursday night, that's
Thursday
why I'm
night.
here tonight.
Okay. So it's conceivable Thursday night, they could elect to be the host community.
Right,
And we would have lost that opportunity.
right.
Okay. All right. I think everybody's asked all the questions that they intend to. Am I correct?
Mhm.
Do we have a motion of some sorts?
Make a motion, we table it until December 4th.
Okay, we have a motion to table until December 4th. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chair, do you want me to entertain a special meeting if we're all in agreement and Jack's read it?
Yep.
He's okay?
I think
That's all right.
everyone's gonna read
I
it.
think
That's
we
all
all
right.
want to read
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
No, I know.
But I would like to move it if we could before the 3 weeks. But I
If
mean, if we lose the opportunity of being a host community, then I guess it won't make a difference.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Yeah, it won't. So there's no sense in having a special meeting.
meeting, yeah.
But we
would
still.
just-
don't we
Unless
still have
the
to sign
questions
a
are
power
answered
purchase
tomorrow.
agreement with you?
So the
Kingston
lake
turns it down.
Right.
Say
Yeah,
it
but we
again?
still have to sign a power purchase
Yeah, yeah,
agreement
we do.
regardless.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
would
Yeah, yeah.
definitely
No, I'm
sign.
We
not
still have to
saying that.
read it.
Right, there's no
Yeah.
question. No, all we're asking here is that you make a motion to approve the agreement once you've all agreed on, or once the town council and Jack and who's ever gonna sign it is okay with it. I think that's all that we're asking.
Yeah, but Mary,
Whatever, you know.
we're gonna wait till the sixth unless Silver Lake drops out and we're ready to go before that.
Fourth.
How's that? Fourth, thank you.
I would think those other communities might have the same concerns we have, so I would hope they,
I would hope they would.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Thanks.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, aye. 3-2.
3-2?
So
Who
I,
approved you and who
Dick and I voted
declined?
against, right?
so I guess then the next step is that, we'll just wait to see how you do with town council and when, if ever, you're signing, right?
I'll let,
We get the thumbs up from town council and just schedule it for the next meeting.
Okay.
or if
So-
Silver Lake drops out, I'll let you know and
Kingston.
we'll go from there.
I think it's Kingston.
So Silver Lake has
I thought it was Kingston.
a meeting, Thursday night where the utility, board is probably gonna make a recommendation for them to sign a contract. But the full board has not had the contract, I think, but, so what I understand is theirs may be just to have, go to the attorneys, because I'm not necessarily, that board will sign it, that it'll,
So the host community thing's not a done deal yet?
no, well, no, I don't know if it is or not, because I think in that situation, the superintendent will actually sign it, won't be the board. The board can just grant them the authority, which is what I thought that's what you guys were gonna do tonight, is to grant someone here the authority to do it once it's been done. So, but they may or may not, it may be the same thing, they may say, well, no, we wanna read it too, you know.
Well, either way, I still want to attend that seminar,
Either
because I want to
way-
be able to check on, if they're the host community, check and make sure that they're doing the right thing for the
Right,
town of Carver.
right, well, you really should talk to the your town council, if you wanna know about that. This is really about how you get paid, who pays who, how it does, what you do if you're not getting your credits, or how you apply them and all that.
Yeah, so you're going to sign me up?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
We've got to vote on this. You tentatively reschedule it for the next meeting on December 4th. Thank you
very
for
much.
coming tonight, Ms.
Thank you.
O'Donnell, Mr. Fernet, thank you. Okay. Discussion on Wade Street property. Who do we have here to discuss the Wade Street property? Anybody? Jack, why don't you come on up and, yeah,
Kick it off.
you look like a good candidate to discuss the Wade Street property.
You stood up, that's what happened.
Yes, sir. I made a map. What would you like me to do, Mike?
Thank you.
Well, I guess the Wade Street property has been kicked back to the Board of Selectmen. The RDA took no action on it, so we want to discuss options. And we had talked to some of the abutters, and there was some interest in purchasing it. I noticed we have another letter from Makepeace. They're looking to
Okay, I hadn't seen that.
reopen
All right.
negotiations for it too, so.
I can tell you through Rick's office, we sent out a letter to all the abutters. Here's a map. Peter can get that. It's 6.5 acres. There's 2 direct abutters here, and then Makepeace is more or less on two-thirds or 3/4 of the sides. And I've gotten to know the abutters quite a bit through the redevelopment authority. I know, and there's probably some I don't know that are here, but I don't know what else you want to do. Maybe listen to what they have to say.
Definitely.
Mr. Chairman, I'm the one that was the driving force behind this, and because of everything that we went through with the redevelopment, I just felt that once it came back to the Board of Selectmen, let's listen to the people that live in that neighborhood and what they would like to see done with it. And I'm sure we're gonna have all different sorts of ideas. Did you want me to read the letter from AD Makepeace? Or
Sure.
you wanna listen to them
Go right
first?
ahead.
Okay. AD Makepeace dropped this letter off today. Dear Ms. LaFawn, I am writing in response to your notice of public hearing dated November 6, 2012, and scheduled for Tuesday evening, November 13, 2012, in regard to town-owned land at the end of Wade Street. As you may recall, the AD Makepeace Company completed the purchase and sales agreement with the Carver Redevelopment Authority on October 11, 2011, and then released the authority from any obligations when asked by town council to do so later that year. We are prepared again to purchase the piece of property previously agreed to, inclusive of a certain covenant regarding uses and impacts, as well as a 200-foot no-touch area from the cul-de-sac into the parcel. Our interest is in owning additional buffer area between our neighbors and Cranberry operations and accessing a portion of the rear area of the parcel for bog sand. In closing, we are unable to attend the meeting due to prior commitments, but are interested in acquiring the parcel. Sincerely, James F. Kane, Senior Vice President.
Thank you, Jack. What I would like to do, and rein me in if I'm off base, please, is let the abutters tell us what their thoughts are.
That's
How's
right.
that?
Yep.
Who would like to go first? Don't everybody jump. Come on up. Come on up. Good. Please sit at the microphone, identify yourself for everybody out there in TV viewer land. And
my name is Greg Iavana. I just recently purchased 17 Wade Street on July 30th, and this all came to a surprise to me. I actually moved to the cul-de-sac. I have a 3-year-old, and I have a newborn, an 8-week-old. I also own a house on Church Street, so I moved to the cul-de-sac to grow my family, quiet neighborhood, and I guess just didn't do diligence to find out what was going on here. I'm 100% against it. I want to leave the property the way it is, obviously, for a number of reasons. You know, because it's a cul-de-sac, I think it's going to ruin the integrity of the neighborhood, the values. And I'm just concerned. There's been talk about a playground, and I'm worried about the upkeep. There's a few different entrances to get in there, not just from the cul-de-sac, so worried about kids going there late night, drinking drugs, or what have you. So those are a few of my concerns.
how does leaving the property exactly as it is quell those concerns of yours?
Well, it's just, it's quiet now, it's peaceful. I just don't see any issues.
But I mean, it's open property. Kids can cut through there. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
They could, but we hear things, and like our neighbors, Mary Lou, Brian, I mean, we're aware of what's going on. We're communicating, so I just think, I mean, they've been talking about a playground. We have one here. We have one if you go over the Plymouth. I mean, I don't know if we necessarily need another playground within, 3 playgrounds within 5 minutes of each other. I mean, I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Can I ask a question?
Okay. Would you be interested in purchasing half of the property with the other
I
abutters?
would. I absolutely would. We would, obviously, there's a lot of details to iron out. I mean, I don't know a lot about it. I've heard this was brought up in the past, and for whatever happened, it didn't work out. I mean, this isn't the first time this was brought up, was it?
No. But that's something that you would entertain.
I would entertain it,
Okay.
but right now, it's not buildable land at this point. Is that correct? I mean,
Mr. Lloyd, you want to chime in?
You live right next door to it?
yes, I'm on 17 Wade. Yep.
Okay, that would be, as I walk towards the cul-de-sac, you're on the right or the left?
If you're going up the cul-de-sac, you pretty much go straight in. It's the White House with the black shutters.
You're off to the right.
Left?
To the right,
Yeah.
to the land, to the
All
left,
right.
yep.
I didn't know exactly. I
Yep.
didn't know if you lived down the street a couple of houses or not.
Yep.
I've walked it.
Yep.
Pretty extensively.
I've done it a couple times.
Based on the last situation we had, and I did notice, of course, the price at the time was like 18,000.
That's what I heard.
And it's 6 acres, and there's a lot of sand under it, if you're interested in agriculture. But that, on the other hand, creates a problem of trucking and things that the neighbors are gonna hear, and I'm just,
Yep.
I'm an advocate of keeping it the way, the town keeping it as a future investment, if nothing else.
Okay.
Well, I just have to ask this based on the 80 Makepeace letter, that they said that they give certain covenants and they'd only be interested in using the rear part of it for bog sand. Would that be something that would interest you?
The rear part of it for bog sand?
Yes, and I don't know what the,
Yeah, I mean,
Dick probably knows more about the rear part of
How
it
do you,
than
how
I
do you
do.
delineate the rear part of the,
Yeah,
Where is it?
Yeah.
Where is the line? What's
Well, the rear part is right along the bogs, that bog road.
and how far back is that from the cul-de-sac?
There's the picture up there on the
Pretty good walk.
map.
Why is 6 acres 18,000? I mean, what's the issue with the property? I mean, for 6 acres to go for 18,000 back, I mean, there's obviously something going on with the property, right? I mean, what's the issue with the
Well,
property?
This is 100 feet from here to there, so 100 feet would be here.
thank you, Mr. Belvin. The issue is that it's town, Ellen, I see your hand up there, and we'll get you up here in a second. The issue is that we have a 6-acre piece of property that
Yep.
could quite possibly be zoned for a retreat lot or something, that the house could sell and, that the town could sell and make some money on, to put into our tax coffers. Conversely, we could also get an engineer in there to determine how much sand and gravel there is, and we could subcontract that out to be mined, and maybe put some money in the town's coffers. We have a responsibility to the entire town. That's why we're trying to explore every option, and that's why we didn't accept Makepeace's initial proposal. So that's why, and we're reaching out to you people to help us solve this dilemma. Right. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes, ma'am.
could I just ask Mr. Hunter, is this lot buildable? So there's not enough frontage currently, so the answer is no. As it stands alone.
Right.
And what do you mean by that? Could you get the microphone, Mr. Hunter? Thank you.
I'm not gonna conjecture about, I'm looking now at the map,
Jack.
about other people's.
Jack, can you use the microphone? Thank you.
I just said as it stands alone, and I guess theoretically, if one of these abutters bought it, they could essentially use some of their frontage for access, possibly, without seeing the frontages or the engineering or any of that. Theoretically, though, I know these abutters, I know that's not their intent.
No, it was just, the reason I asked is because it's been mentioned a couple of times and I didn't want,
As
if
it
if it's not a standalone buildable
Absolutely
lot, I
not.
didn't want anyone to have the impression that it was.
Absolutely isn't.
That can't be rezoned as a retreat lot.
No, you need 50 feet of frontage, minimum. Yep. And you can't alter it to make it, it has to be pre-existing.
I stand corrected on that then, so that's one option that is not available. However, the other options are still in place. Like Dick said, hold on to it for future investment. That could be at some time mined for sand and gravel. Ellen, you want to come up? I don't want your arm to fall off back there.
Ellen Blanchard, I'm the Director of Assessing, and I wanted to speak to why the value was so low. And the reason the value is so low is because when this subdivision was created back in the 70s, that parcel was set aside to be used for recreation by all of the people who were part of the subdivision. The Redevelopment Authority had spoken to me, or one of their members, about possibly making a common area for all of the residents of the subdivision to share in equally, and what that would, cost them in taxes a year, basically. And it was going to be very small money, because there are 130-something parcels that are part of this subdivision. But the reason for it being valued so low is because, number one, it's unbuildable. And the other part was that it was the intention, even though it wasn't expressed in the plan, was for all of the residents of the subdivision to partake of that area equally. So that was that's the basis for why the value is so low.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Belbin, as the RDA, do you want to come up and impart some of your wisdom about this parcel to us?
As the town of Carver, and you own it now as the town of Carver, that parcel could be used for government purposes without needing the 150-foot square frontage for it, because it's up to us to go ahead and do something with that property if you wanted to. Personally, I think that it should go back to the property owners of the original intent. And if it can't go to all 130, then the town do keep it. And keep it so it's protected from any strip mining done by Makepeace, because that's gonna bring up a lot of sand to the neighbors. They're gonna have trucks out there, excavators, and they have little kids over there. I don't think that would be a good area for that to happen, personally.
I think they would be going the other way when they threw their bogs.
Who knows?
Coming
If they
through the
own it,
property.
they can make a road in there.
Coming through it?
No, they'd be going through their bog.
Bogs.
Yeah, so
Well,
who knows?
They also mentioned that subject to restrictions and caveats and everything else.
Yeah, they said they put a 200-foot
Right.
no touch area from the cul-de-sac
Right.
into the parcel.
200 feet really isn't a whole lot for noise, personally. But I'm not I'm, from the redevelopment authority, we looked at different options for the property. And I explained those options to you guys. But no matter what, it's the property owners here that really, the direct abutters, I don't think the amount of prices that Makepeace offered before was way too low if you're gonna sell it. I think there's a lot more worth in that property. And once you subdivide it, then that increases the property values for those two abutters, however you subdivide it. That being said, also, is that any abutter can go back to the planning board and request that that designation of recreation be changed.
Well, couldn't we put some restrictions on it if we sold it to them?
You
Just like
could.
we would do with Makepeace?
You could, but no matter what, they can still go back to planning board, because planning board can make changes and modifications to any order that they have prior. So, just a food for thought.
All right, thank you. How about from the other abutters? You guys want to step up and provide us with your input? Sure. Give us a solution, will you, please?
Oh, I'd love to. My name is Brian Abatello. I live at 15 Wade Street, right across the street from the property in question. And I live next to Greg, and I'm with him as far as leaving the property the way it is, because basically that piece of property holds a lot of wildlife. You know, we get deer and turkey and all kinds of other things that come out of the woods over there. And it's really pleasant to have these things coming out and being in your front yard and being in your area. And, you know, the beauty of those animals is not going to be replaced by, you know, a sand and gravel pit from, you know, either Makepeace or the town of Carver. You know, and I can tell you from living there for the last 6.5 years, while they were, you know, revamping that bog that is behind it, you know, every morning, beacons, diesel engines, the whole thing. I mean, you know, it was waking us up very early in the morning. Those people don't start out, you know, at 9 o'clock in the morning. They start out about 5:45. So they're early risers, and they get us up early too. But, you know, that's a real problem. You know, and they do have, you know, you don't see it in your topographical there, an access road that cuts through the back of it as well. So, I mean, there is a lot of usage going on already, and we do, as residents of the you know, the community there, use the paths that are already there to, you know, I snowshoe there, I walk around, and I see other neighbors in the back walking their dogs, and, you know, other, you know, kids using motorcycles back there and things like that. So it is a recreational area right now, and probably has been for the last 35 years. So that's why I feel that it should just be left alone to, you know, to us to do as we've been doing. You know, the park would be great, but we already have a park. We just don't have swing sets in that park. We use it the way it is naturally. So that's my stance on it. And, you know, hopefully you'll take that into consideration.
Thank you very much for your
You're
input,
welcome.
sir.
Thanks.
All right, who else? Come on, I see more abutters out there. Yes, sir, if you could state your name and address, please.
Sure. Palmer Pearson, 3 Wade Street. So I'm on Wade Street. I'm not a direct abutter, so I'm closer to the South Meadow Road end. probably lived in Vaughan Estates longer than anybody up there, so I've been there over 30 years. Yeah, the original plan for the Williams brothers was to turn that into a playground, and that never happened. There were a lot of rumors a long time ago, and I don't know if that's still true or not, that it was used as a stump dump. Cans, paint cans were buried in there, so I'm not sure about if it's a hazardous waste dump or not underneath. So that might be another issue. Hopefully they've already checked that out, but if they haven't, that's something we should do. I think anything that is going to bring on more traffic to Wade Street would be I assume everybody would be against. I'd be against it as well. I'm against selling it to Makepeace as well, because we saw what the fiasco the last couple of years, that they want to build buildings on the other people on the right side of Wade Street behind there, on property they already own, and they have the right to do that. But luckily, they proved to be good neighbors and didn't do that. But even with covenants, things can change. So I'm sort of against that. Well, my own opinion is it'd be nice to have like a little miniature park, garden, or the public gardens type of thing where you could use and benefit of everybody in the town. But I think the reality of it is that if you go in steps and say the people that directly abut it have first option to buy it, whether if it's one on each side, 50-50, or whatever they want to do. And then maybe the residents of Wade Street, if they want to buy it, and then all of Vaughan Estates. And if beyond that, who knows? But I mean, at least it gives some revenue back to the town. If it's bought, it'll be some taxes back instead of just sitting there. And I think I agree with the previous speakers that having a sand pile dump, mining the sand would be a terrible thing to do. But you also don't want to stick the town with it and just have it there for nothing forever. I mean, you guys have to make some money from it or do something. That's understood. But I think there's probably a hierarchy of steps you go through, and I think the immediate abutters should have the first shot, and then the rest of us on Wade Street maybe the second. I mean, I'd buy it. I could buy it my own, but they should have the first shot at it.
And that's what we're trying to ascertain here, what the interest is.
Yeah.
What the recommendations
Yeah,
are.
I'd be, if nobody bought it, I'd buy it. But I think the abutters should have the first shot at it. And but if we can keep it, I don't know if you necessarily have to keep it where it is. It could probably be improved somewhat. I mean, just because it's unused land. We had deer in the front yard of our house 2 days ago, so there's plenty of deer there. But it's maybe you can improve it. Maybe you can make it a little, I'm going overboard for the thing, but make it a little arboretum, something that the whole town can enjoy. But even with that brings more traffic down Wade Street. So it's sort of stuck in the middle here of what to do. There's no super bad decision, no super good decision. So I think it's, I don't envy you guys if you guys have to make this final decision, but I think probably the fairest thing to do is to give the immediate butters.
That's why they pay us the big bucks.
I know, you guys are, you're all our heroes. But I think that's probably the best thing, I would think.
Well, your points are certainly duly noted, and your concerns, and we're just as concerned too. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, good, thanks.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Sir, I'm sorry
Sir.
to interrupt you. Could I just ask you a quick question? I'm sorry. And I probably should have asked the other two people too. Our assessor, Director of Assessing, had mentioned the original intent of the parcel apparently it was to have it belong to everyone in that whole subdivision.
Right.
Is that something that you and your neighbors would entertain as well, so that you were
sure.
all paying, 100
Yeah, I don't know how you do it if,
fifths of it or whatever, of the
if
taxes?
95 people say yes and five people say no. I don't know how you work that out.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm sure it would. That was the original intent, which was to share it equally among everybody in the subdivision. And we kept thinking, oh, good, it's going to happen next year. It never happened. And when the kids were small, now the kids are having kids. So it's that went by the boards. But there's always new families moving in. It'd be nice to have something there. But yeah, if that could be arranged, and yeah, I mean, if it's 18,000 by 100 and something.
Well, I mean, that would
houses,
be
it's like,
less taxes on each individual family, and
but
they'd
you-
all
well, minimal,
share,
though, yeah.
but they wouldn't have to pay as much, and
Right.
they could all enjoy it.
And just the town would still get some revenue, even though for
Right.
each individual person would be nothing.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking.
A question, if they're saying, if Ellen was saying that the original intent was to deed that to everybody within the development,
It's not, no,
For the use of.
use,
deed for the use of, right?
Yep.
Does it infer that potential ownership or not, I
I'm gonna-
guess? Maybe they already own it, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
What happened is, back in the old days, in the 70s, especially 60s and 70s, when subdivisions were brand new, the whole concept was started in the 50s, late 50s. But the intent was to always have a recreational lot in every subdivision. But back then, they left it up to the developer. and the developer owned the lot. There is a deed restriction placed on the lot, and thou cannot do anything except build recreation. It doesn't even define what recreation is, but it was left in the developer's hands. And of course, they never built them. And why would they build something that they didn't have to build? And so throughout Carver and every town in Massachusetts, you have these little lots that have recreational deeds on them that were never built. Back taxes start building, and then lo and behold, we end up owning them. Now, what Helen and I talked about, nowadays what we do is we require a deed for every property in that subdivision to jointly own the property. We make the park actually be built, and so on and so on. But to go back and ask how many lots are in there,
130, I think Ellen said.
to ask them to now take this on would be a mammoth operation, and I don't think you'd get consensus on it, so.
Well, I guess, if I may, Mr. Chair, I guess my question went to the original intent, and if there were enough people in the subdivision, whoops, I mean to be scary, who were willing to, to enter into a deed and pay taxes on it. I mean, that, and have it stay the way it is. I don't know.
The problem.
That's how I feel about these meetings, too.
The problem is that it's too difficult to do it post facto. If it had been done originally, then everybody's deed would have said they share 134th or whatever of each of that parcel. It's too difficult to do that now, and I'm not sure that we can.
You can't format it out to.
Well, the other problem is it goes to an association then, and who's members of the association, who's going to be going around and collecting the taxes on it,
well, I guess
because that's the only way you can really do it now.
I'm not questioning you, Ellen, at all. I just don't understand why, since the town now owns it, it couldn't be formatted into little pieces that would belong to each of the people in that subdivision who wanted to own a piece of it.
It's like Plymouth does. They have 6 square inches somebody owns.
That's a big operation there, right?
Mr. Chairman, in the redevelopment, we discussed that quite a bit. And I wasn't gonna bring it up until after people had had a chance to talk, but I thought that maybe we could put the property in trust, similar to like the Council on Aging building, and appoint 3 or 4 members of that neighborhood. And we wouldn't charge any taxes to anyone. They could maybe go to the CPA once a year and get some money to do some improvements on it.
Yeah. That's an
There's a
option.
thought.
There's
There's
a
a
little
thought.
lifting there.
Never mind dividing it into all these different parcels.
There's
And let's
another
give it back to the
department you gotta
people.
deal with and that kind of stuff with that.
Yeah.
The other option is the 2 abutters, and then the other option is Mr. Ward's just sitting on it.
Well, I think the land and trust certainly sounds like a viable option for long term, but let's see what the rest of the abutters have to say, okay? And
The trust does sound fine, too. I mean, that's not.
we appreciate your input. Thank you very much for being here. All right. Come on, Gina. You gonna come up and speak about it, or? You gotta come
Gina,
up to the
please use the microphone.
You gotta tell everybody out there in viewer land who you are, if they don't know.
I'm Gina Hanlon-Kavicki, 11 Wade Street. Hello, good evening. I happen to agree with 3 Wade Street and some of the other Wade Street members. It's wonderful the way it is. It's quiet. I think that if AD Makepeace does purchase and grab some of that sand and gravel, that it is going to be really noisy. It is going to, I don't want to say destroy the neighborhood, but bring it down. It's going to be loud.
Certainly lower the quality of life.
Absolutely. And if it ever opened up to be a road, you're talking 18-wheelers going down Wade Street. I don't believe that street was designed for that. That's 18-wheelers can do a lot of damage to the roadway. That's it.
Any questions?
How do you feel about putting it into a trust?
I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah. And then
I think the
yeah.
abutters, the direct abutters, should have the opportunity, if they choose to either divide it, split it, purchase it, 60-40, 50-50, and if they didn't want to, and the other Wade Street or residents didn't want to purchase it, putting into a trust to have it monitored.
One other thing I just thought of is, if you do decide to go, not the
I get
trust.
the microphone for 2 minutes and
That's
steal
it, I'm stealing it. If you go the way of abutters, or even all of the abutters, you're gonna because the town now owns this, you're gonna have to RFP it.
But we wouldn't with the trust.
No, I think that's town meeting vote.
Thank you very much for your input.
Thank you.
Folks? Yes, I am. You have to come up to the microphone. You can't avoid it. It's your 5 minutes of fame here, come on.
Dressed for the occasion.
You look lovely.
Tell us who you are, what your address is, and
My name is Mary Lou Boulay, and I live at 16 Wade Street, and I've been there since the 80s. And I am very happy with the neighbors on the street. We have wonderful neighbors. And I actually agree with with my neighbors at 17 Wade Street and at 15 Wade Street, and of course the other lady at further down. But I thought it would be a good idea for the three of us, because we protect it, and we're all the same way about the animals and all the wildlife there, and we wouldn't be interested in doing it, and I wouldn't be interested in, and my husband, in doing anything, building or whatever. And actually, I do believe that the only way it could be built is if I allowed access onto my property somehow, or built a road, because I have a good piece of land there.
Right.
But I wouldn't do that. I don't want anything happening to that land. All the neighbors that are interested in the whole development take walks up there. They're all up there, and it's wonderful. And they enjoy it just in the nice, wild way that it is.
what would be your preference, to purchase half of that?
Pardon
Or
me?
what would be your preference, to purchase half of that, or to have the town put it in trust?
Well, I'd like to have it just so I would know, well, I'd share it with my neighbors, but just so I would know what was happening there, because I have sort of protected it for all these years. And I have tried to beautify it so that I could keep people up from dumping there, and they were dumping. They were dumping for years. My husband couldn't believe the traffic going up there when we got married. He couldn't believe how many dump trucks were going up there. So he put up a fence with the permission of the fire department just to stop it, because they were dumping everything up there. And I'm not just talking about the Williams brothers. They had finished dumping. They dumped 30 years of building material up there. And I saw it. There's layers. In fact, there's a low area on the Ionella. I hope I said his name. Their property's low, but it was built up like a tiramisu over the years of different trash. And I used to watch it, and I couldn't believe it. So the other thing is, we would be taking the responsibility of that trash and whatever happened. And if somebody said, "Ooh, let's call the EPA on those people," and all of a sudden we would have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because we'd have to clean it up. But we are willing to take that chance and hopefully let it all stay under that sand. Because once that stuff, if someone starts digging there and that blows up all over the place, that's going to be terrible for the three abutters. So we would like to take it and protect it, because we would never do anything harmful. And we wouldn't do anything harmful to our neighbors. We love our neighborhood.
Well, that was my next question, because the theme for many of them seemed to be that.
You'll have to speak
that
a
was
little louder. 'Cause
I said that was my next question, because the theme from many of your neighbors was that they enjoyed that as a piece of recreational property. If you and the other abutter split that property and becomes your property, that could take it out of the domain of recreational property for the neighborhood. Should you decide to fence it off and put up no trespassing signs, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everybody in the whole neighborhood enjoys that, and they enjoyed it anyway, whether for years, for decades, they all enjoyed it. Even the kids are up there. And it's better left just the way it is.
Okay.
Just leave it alone, because what's underneath.
Okay. Any questions from the board
Okay.
members? Like to ask them?
Well, I was just thinking if
And
two
you
or
know,
three
I'm a little
people buy
deaf.
it.
I'm 65, so I'm a little on the deaf side.
I'm 72, and I can't hear anything.
Huh?
What I was thinking was, as you said this, is 2 or 3 families buy it. You sell it to your daughter-in-law, your daughter, and her husband's a son of a gun, and he decides he doesn't want any of the neighbors walking on it.
Yeah, but you know something?
I mean,
My
I'm just
kids don't
thinking.
have homes.
No, I'm just thinking that something like that could happen, so.
Restrictions on it,
you know.
that's what you do when you sell it. If you're gonna turn it over to the 3 neighbors, you put restrictions on it. We don't care, because all we're going to do is I'm just gonna sit next to it.
I like your goodwill on the whole thing, don't get me wrong, I'm just
Right.
trying to make sure that
Well, I
if
can't
it
control
was.
the next generation.
I know, but
the
we may be able to, as the town government. I mean, if we held on to it, that might protect
Right.
it
Well, you
for
wanna you wanna
everybody.
hold on to it so you can sell it to a cranberry bog down the road.
No, I do not, no.
Not necessarily,
No,
that's
I
not
do
true.
not
Well,
want to do that.
I'm just being
I'd rather-
practical,
yeah,
but the thing is,
yeah.
you were given this property by the builders after they trashed it. And
And we
they
took
knew
it for
nothing could be done
taxes.
with it, and then they gave it to you because they couldn't pay their taxes, so now you're sitting on it.
But it's supposed to be for recreation,
Well,
you know.
for recreation. I
Whatever
wouldn't let
kind of
anybody
recreation.
I wouldn't really let anybody play up there or anybody dig
Mm.
in there I just wouldn't. None of my grandchildren would go up there.
Mm.
I mean, we would walk around it or whatever, but no one's gonna dig in there.
Sarah?
Really, I've lived there, I know what's in there. It's
Yeah,
Pandora's
I
box.
believe you, I believe you.
Ma'am, I just wanted to say that if a person buys a piece of land and they discover contamination on it, there are state funds for that to help clean up the site.
That's very nice, but still it would be on our responsibility.
Right, but I just wanted you to know that that's a good thing. That would help, that would be helpful to.
Thank you very much. But by the same token, you could have it all fixed up for us with state funds and then sell it to us for the same price. But we're not asking that. We're just leaving it be.
You know, I'd have to get town council's, advice on it, but I would think if we knowingly knew that that was contaminated and sold it to someone, you might be able to come back against the town. I'm not certain, but we should check that out with town council.
Well, we can all think about it.
Yeah, well, that's why we're having this.
Yeah, we're not
Think
making any
about it.
decisions tonight, we're
Decisions.
just,
It's gonna stay there happily. All the deer will still be there. Nobody's up there hunting. And the turkeys and everything else. I'm happy. Okay.
see, now that you've told all the hunters there's deer and turkey and everything out there. Forget
We're all
about
gonna
the
be out there.
16-wheelers, you're gonna have all kinds of people out there shooting them.
They'll never, listen, they will never, that property will never see those 16-wheelers.
You're right.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. bye.
Thank you. Is anybody else in the audience like to chime in on this? Mr. Belbin,
No, there's one
No,
more.
why don't you let
you're
him-
gonna have to wait, Mr. Belbin.
Yeah.
We have a,
Yeah.
Well, I'm just at 14 Wade Street, right next to Mary Lou. So,
What's your name? I'm sorry.
Eric Simpson. We've been there 5 years now, and we'd like to see it just stay the same. Whether if it could be a trust, it seems like that'd be the best bet, where the whole street owns it, and then that way, like you're saying, future generations, if Mary Lou's son-in-law takes over, and I don't know how you can change the frontage, but I guess then again, if it's only one house, then that's not a big deal. But if it ends up being some kind of sand and gravel pit like at exit 7, then it's just going to be an eyesore. So I just a 2 cents, but I don't want to take too much time either.
no, your views are important, okay? We appreciate you coming forward like
Not a
that.
very good public speaker, so.
You're doing fine.
We aren't either.
You look, are you looking to volunteer for a committee? We've got plenty of openings. We get plenty of practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Belvin, second time. Make it quick, please.
Very quickly. I actually brought up if there was any sale to the Board of Selectmen, we'd have to go to RFP. I wrote that on my notes for Jack, but thanks, Jack. One of the things I am going to request as a member of the RDA is to see if the RDA will pay for soil testing of that site. I think that'll be very important for us to know, and for the residents to know if that property is safe or not. And that would be within our purview of the RDA. And I think that will help the residents out. and also the Board of Selectmen.
Well, I
All
think
right,
it'll
thank you.
help us make a determination how we want to go on it, I think, so. Thank you. Fellow members of the board, anybody have anything they want to?
Got another question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on back up.
Bob put a thought in my head just a second ago. The soil sample, we have an aquifer, so, if what Mary Lou is talking about, it's been on my mind for a while too, and it just kind of came back now. If they're gonna do a soil sample, can we do another sample as well to make sure that it's not contaminating the aquifer? Because that's been, a concern of mine, having well water.
Well, we can certainly ask the RDA what the sampling will involve and whether they can put that part of it in there too, okay?
Okay, thank
So
you.
you'd want to have your well tested, is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking, is that piece of property affecting the wells of myself and Greg and Mary Lou and, Mr. Simpson?
I think you'd have to test your well to
Okay.
make that determination, okay?
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
That sounds.
Before you go, though, I want to hear that phone ring one more time.
I'd have to turn it back
Can you do that?
I can do that for you, yes.
Go ahead.
My wife's gonna hate me.
Mike generally has the Marine Corps song. What's that called?
The Marine
But
Sam.
forever
It's
remembered.
The Marine Sam. Right next to the mic.
All right, it's coming.
Okay.
It's
Mike can
coming.
call you.
Hold on. I'm probably on film too, right?
We can always bring the little kid back.
There we go.
Need to entertain Mike.
Wanna call me?
Somebody call them.
They just-
Somebody call them. They only go off when you don't need them to.
Yeah.
Is someone calling him?
Oh, yeah, it's
No
coming.
reception.
Nice try.
Oh, no reception. Sorry.
Only in the back of the room.
It only does it when you're talking.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you'll have to come to all future meetings. There he goes.
That'll be me leaving.
Thank you. Well, I think that we've had a pretty productive discussion on that property. I think we've got a pretty good idea of how the residents in that area feel. And just as a matter of public record, I also live in that development, so I have my own thoughts about that, and I'll keep those to myself for now.
And we don't have to be in a hurry, right?
Right.
Yeah, we'll take our time.
We're not in a hurry to do anything, trust me, okay? We're not, especially not gonna do anything to hurt anybody. Yes, Mrs. Forrester? You have to jog up to the table. Yes, you do, and speak into the mic.
Thought we had a portable phone, portable mic.
33, right, Jane?
Yeah, right, about 3 times, a little more than that. Jane Forrester, Cranberry Village. I think what I wanted to say was I just, I know why people got a little angry and all of that, but at the same time, Mr. Ward, you were with everyone else here, and you were being a gentleman, and I don't think you deserve that attack as far as the Cranberry. Well, I
I'm
just
good.
have to say.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Okay, folks, I think that, Jack, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask her to take a break.
You wanna take a break?
Yeah.
Make a motion?
Make a motion, take a 5-minute.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
We'll
Aye.
watch Jack.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll take your seats, we'll try and get this reconvened, and maybe we can get out of here before midnight tonight. Maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that was a fairly interesting discussion on the Wade Street property, and I think we've got a lot of good information, and like we said, no decisions are gonna be made tonight. We're gonna take that, and we're gonna do some research, and then we'll come back in and have another hearing on this, and make some proposals, probably. Our 7:10 public hearing for Landmark Auto Sales did show up. He was caught in traffic, but as Mr. LaFond and I explained to him, it was a public hearing. There may have been people here at that time to challenge or question, and they left after we said we were gonna table it, so he understood, and I believe, and we put it on for the 4th of December? Do we need to,
I think that's why, I think it's important that you decide what you want to do. I think if you put it off and table it till a certain time and date, you're okay. I wouldn't want to leave this meeting without doing that publicly.
Right.
From the public notice standpoint.
did we take a vote on that?
We just tabled it.
We just, okay.
vote to postpone it to December.
We voted to postpone it to December 4th.
No, we can't.
Okay, all right, let's
Make
take,
that
I'll make a
motion.
motion, okay.
we have a motion,
Go ahead, you do it.
and we have a second, to postpone it till December 4th.
Right.
So, does that need to be re-advertised?
I don't know, that was a question.
We'll look into that, and he may have to he may have to re-notify abutters, but we'll find that out. That'll be his
We'll get some-
obligation.
Get some free advertising out there in the audience, don't we? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, let's move on to our 8:30 PM. Cisco Brewers request for 31-day special wine and malt licenses at Edaville Railroad. Do we have Cisco Brewers? Please step up to the mics. Okay, so you want to tell us who you are and
Certainly.
why you're here?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Herman of Cisco Brewers. As you said, we're here in application of a 30-day permit to pour beer and wine at Edaville. We've been working with them to try to set this up on some certain dates that we thought would be fun and busy. The first of which is this weekend with the festival going on and the opening. We are a brewery, winery, distillery. We've been a winery since 1981. Distillery since 2000, and a brewery since 97. And what we were hoping to pour were some of our flagship beers. Whale's Tail Pale Ale is one. And for wine, we have a cranberry Pinot Gris and a red wine called Sailor's Delight. And we're just kind of hoping to showcase and get some more brand recognition and add to the time that people have at Edaville. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
I noticed that all your bartenders will be tip certified.
Yes.
Okay.
One of which is here. Gavin's right behind me.
And you have a maximum drink policy and shut-off policy,
Absolutely.
because it is an amusement park, family amusement park. Brenda, did you have anything that you wanted to add to this?
It is going to be in a fenced-in area down at the barbecue pavilion. Brenda, could you use the microphone?
Yeah, just pull it out of the thing there.
It is going to be in a fenced-in area down by the barbecue in the pavilion. And there'll be another gate where they come in to purchase their beer and wine.
So it'll be in a controlled environment, a restricted environment.
Yes, it will.
Okay.
So they can't walk out in the other area, they have to stay within that fenced-in area.
That is correct.
So one parent will stay and the other will entertain their children.
It'll be
no,
tag team.
There'll be food served, so they can
Ms.
all.
Marone's thinking back to her earlier
Hey,
days.
easy.
Was this vetted through the chief of police and everything? Chief Mix? Do you have any comments, questions?
No, but you make everybody get up and come up to the microphone instead of yelling from the audience, so. Chief Mix, Carver Police Department. No, I spoke to Brenda briefly earlier. I'm all right with her concerns. We'll, as we go on and we see if there's any issues, we can discuss them as they come up. And as we get closer to Christmas, if there's crowd issues too, we can discuss any issues then. I have no issues as long as they keep it in a controlled environment with trained bartenders.
Thank you.
How about,
Is it gonna be more like a restaurant type operation?
There'll be,
For us in particular, it's separate, right?
right, we have a restaurant, the barbecue with hamburgers, hot dogs, salads, chicken. So there'll be food in that area.
So they would go to your area and pick up their drinks and then go back to the food area, or will there be a waitress?
They can't leave the fenced-in area with a beer or wine.
Could Could you please use the microphone?
Yeah.
Sure, sorry. They can't leave the fenced-in area with the beer and wine, and we're using wristbands as well. So if it's a slow day per se, and it's manageable by just the bartender, he'll card at the counter where they get the beer and wine, and the person will get a wristband. If they choose to leave the courtyard, they can't come back in without getting the wristband again.
So there'll be a whole separate area where they'll consume the wine and,
Correct. I imagine that people
But
would
not
want to
with
have
it.
a sandwich with a beer. So maybe the thing is to tell them that they can go and get a sandwich and bring it over to where the beer and
Oh,
wine is
okay.
being served instead of
so the.
vice versa.
There'd be tables or something where they could eat in your area?
Can we do that?
This barbecue pavilion here has seating for about 150 people. So they have to get their food from the barbecue first, walk into the beer garden, and then go to the seating.
Okay.
I think, are you asking, are they gonna be able to consume food and alcohol in a common area?
Yes.
Yes, but that whole area, the common area, food and the alcohol service is all fenced in, so they can't escape with the alcohol. So they'll be mixed, but they'll all be in a fenced-in area. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. No, I was just asking what it was gonna be.
You're talking to a CPA, you gotta remember to break this stuff down.
Yeah.
The menu?
How about other questions, other members of the board? Sarah?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
No one?
I was just gonna make a motion.
Okay, can we have a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the 31-day special license for Cisco Brewers at Edaville Railroad.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck, folks. Hopefully you have a good season. Okay. Special town meeting warrant, December 6, 2012. Vote to accept articles and possible recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just briefly mention that we have received some the input from town council on the warrant, and there are some recommended formatting changes to some of the articles, but one of the key issue with regard to the recommendation that I'd just like to point out is that there were two articles by the Board of Assessors regarding abatement for Verizon, and that's going to be combined into one article. The advice of council, there's a stock recommendation they have on that.
What articles are those?
Those
Rick?
are Articles 9 and 10.
And why are they being combined?
Well, they're intended to essentially accomplish the same thing. The assessors had put them on the warrant as two pieces, but town council has recommending that be one vote.
Can I ask you a question?
They have language to accomplish that. I'm just pointing that out, that if you see the warrant, those articles combined, that is why. When we haven't had a chance to actually update this since receiving the recommendations.
So that'll reduce it to 15 articles.
Exactly, we're getting there.
Ellen, did you have something you wanted to?
Ellen?
Yeah, you have to come up to the table, Ellen.
We just
Keep
got-
raising your hand, you're gonna keep getting up here.
We just got it today, so I can show it to you. It's very similar to what you have here, just in one form.
Mr. LaFond is going to show me what
Yes.
it, so, thank you.
Very simple.
Thank you for making me get up.
Can I ask you a question, Rick? How did the $77,000 get into overlay surplus? Did you did someone transfer it from overlay accounts?
Are we getting ahead here, or are we?
No.
Where are we?
Ms. Blanchard,
Nine.
let's see.
Huh?
He wants to combine it.
I'll speak to that, because the Board of Assessors is the only board that can move money out of the overlay account, except for the 3% discount. And the board is meeting on Monday at 3 o'clock, because one of our members is out of state. Yeah, I was going to say country, but I wasn't sure. No, out of state. And so this is one of the items that we need to vote on, do the final vote. They knew it was coming. they knew it had to happen, but
So this hasn't been voted on by the assessors?
it will be Monday.
So why don't you explain a little bit better, Ellen, that you're taking money out of various overlay accounts and transferring it into the overlay surplus? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, from 2 different years, for the purpose of paying the Verizon abatement for FY 2009. This was something that the Department of Revenue actually puts the value on these personal property accounts, and Verizon New England took them to court, and then the DOR was found, was successful. Verizon New England appealed to the appeals court, and the appeals court remanded it back and said that, I'm sorry, the DOR did not prevail. Verizon prevailed, but the problem was it's very complicated, and it involves the values of machinery, poles, wires, conduits, and work in progress. And those were the 3 items that were at any rate. So the value for the machinery and the poles and equipment and conduits were not allowed to be taxed, even though the DOR had put a value on them. And then the construction work in progress didn't come into effect until after 2009, at any rate. So now Verizon New England wants the money back plus interest. And the interest normally comes out of short-term interest, but in this case, what we're doing is we're transferring the money from overlay and putting it back into short-term interest because there wasn't enough money in the account, in the short-term interest account to cover it. But that's where it should be drawn from. So it's going from the overlay to short-term interest, and the other is for FY 06 and 07 monies going into FY 09. Going into overlay surplus to be used for the FY 09.
Did you understand that?
Well,
You're glad you asked.
once we go through the articles and start at 1, when
Yeah,
we get to
okay.
10, we'll have her explain it again.
No.
Just raise your hand, Ellen.
No.
All right. Since there's a limited number of these articles, why don't we go through them one at a time and
Article 1.
see if we have any recommendations or anything on them.
Okay.
Okay, Article 1, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a specified sum of money to pay the following unpaid bills under the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 64, or take any other action relative thereto. Norfolk Ram Group, LLC, 633756. OC Imagistics Incorporated, $247.81, for a total of $6,585.37 by the Board of Selectmen.
Is that an unpaid bill, Rick, from fiscal 12?
These are all unpaid bills. Well, both of them, correct.
Okay. Motion, we approve it?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's open for discussion. Any further discussion? Do we know what bills they are, Rick? They're unpaid?
I've got the folder in the other room. I don't exactly.
Oh, it's a compilation over time?
Yeah.
Okay.
But isn't it every
Well,
year, don't you usually end up with a balance that you owe every year to Norfolk Ram? Is that for the landfill?
Well, the landfill monitoring is usually when we have overruns, because that's a lot of times it's a function of additional testing that DEP may require that wasn't, in the ordinary testing schedule. So that can be a little bit of a wild card every year.
And the OCE Imagistics?
Yes.
What do they do?
Lab.
Excuse me?
Lab?
Yes.
Lab?
Yeah. Once again, I'd be happy to go get the folder. My understanding tonight was we were talking about staying on the warrant or not staying on the warrant. These are the unpaid bills.
Okay.
So, if I knew you were going to be making recommendations this evening, I would have been happy to.
We owe them. We owe them, though, right?
We owe the bills, right.
So when we'll make recommendations at the next meeting?
Yes.
For the most part?
For the most part,
Okay.
yes. Just so historically, that's what the board has done. You accept the articles for the warrant, and that prior to town meeting, you make your recommendations onto whether or not you are going to recommend the meeting approve them or not. But the function of this is generally just to approve what the
give one
warrant's
more.
gonna be, so
Okay.
we can post it.
So we have a motion to accept and a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Uh,
Unanimous.
Question. Should we postpone making the recommendations till December 4th meeting and just go forward with the warrant?
That's what we're
That's
doing.
what we're doing.
Well, I mean, you're going to go through them all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One by one.
Yeah.
Well, you don't, if we accept the warrant, then we don't need to do that. We do that on the December
No,
4th.
I have a few concerns
Yeah.
about
That's why,
you
that's why we're
getting
doing it
them on.
article by
We
article.
can get the little ones out of the way
Yeah.
quickly.
If that's the way you want to do it. You better get your folder out.
Article 2.
Yeah.
See if the town will vote to transfer from available funds amounts recommended by the Board of Selectmen to supplement specific budget line items appropriated at the 2012 annual town meeting, or take any other action relative thereto by the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's a stock article we have in every special town meeting. At this time, we don't have any recommendations. Our number one concern when this warrant was formed, as the board has been kept aware of the continual concerns by the police chief about some of his overtime costs, but I don't believe that the chief is asking for any action at this time, a little bit early in the fiscal year, to be making any major
Okay.
decisions, so
Do you foresee this coming off the warrant?
if it left the warrant, that would be okay. That's
Okay.
up to you tonight. but we
So you don't
we
foresee
have-
anything?
Well, I mean, we don't have any specific target right now for this. It's just a generic article that we always have in the event that there are some issues that have to be, but we usually don't have a town meeting this early in the fiscal year either, so,
Want to make a motion to remove it from the,
fine with me.
Make a motion to table it, would that be okay?
Well, it's either on or it's off.
Make a motion that we remove it.
do we have a second?
Second.
I didn't misspeak, Chief.
Any
did I?
further discussion?
Thank you.
No.
No further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of removing it from the warrant, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the North Carver Water District retained earnings the amount of $15,315.75 to pay the following unpaid bills under the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 64, or take any other action relative thereto. Copeland and Page, $3,653.75. Copeland and Page, $442. Small Water Systems, $11,220 by the North Carver Water District Commissioners. Anybody that can speak
Make
to
a
this?
motion, we approve.
You make a motion, we approve. Do we have a second on
Second.
that? Is that a second, Ms. Morrow? We have a second. Does anybody have some information they can enlighten us with on this?
You, Rick?
Those are unpaid bills by the water district. I'm not sure exactly what the cause of those were. I do know that they had a lot of legal work with regard to some of their, abatement processes. I also know the small water systems, with the departure of the former superintendent, had to pick up a much larger role in running the system than had been intended. So I suspect that a lot of what happened there was probably the timing of payment more so than lack of funds.
And Rick, did they also do some work recommending some of these later appropriations to improve the system?
Later on Article 6?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from short-term interest to the North Carver Water District for the purpose of defraying the North Carver Water District budget for FY 2013, or take any other action relative thereto by the Board of Selectmen.
And make a motion, we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's open for discussion. Any
Rick,
comments?
do you have any idea what the figure's gonna be?
My understanding is that we were looking at something in the $50,000 range. John will be giving, I know is working with Mr. Johnson, the chairman of the commissioners, to get an exact number for town meeting. That Articles 4 and 5 are designed to work together and to balance the budget of the district.
Okay.
Which, by the way, was the purpose of this town meeting.
Yes, somehow it got lost in the
Just
other
wanna-
14 articles. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. opposed? It's unanimous. Article 5, as Mr. LaFont said, is designed to go hand in hand with Article 4. To see if the town will vote to revise the amount taken from the North Carver Water District retained earnings for the purpose of defraying the North Carver Water District operating budget from $100,883 to an amount of $103,713, or take any other action relative thereto by the North Carver Water District Commissioners.
I'll make a motion to approve Article 5.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the amount of $40,300 for the Cranberry Village Water District. The purpose is defined below. $26,300 to come from retained earnings and $14,000 to come from estimated water revenues, or take any other action relative thereto. $10,000 of that for the purposes of having an infrastructure evaluation to be funded from retained earnings. $10,000 for the purpose of a 20-year master plan for the Cranberry Village water system to be funded from retained earnings. $6,300 for the purpose of erecting a fence and purchasing a bulk chemical storage tank to be funded from retained earnings. $14,000 to increase to the operating supplies budget for additional chemicals to be funded from water revenues.
I'll make a motion to approve Article 6.
I'll second it
We
for
have a motion-
discussion purposes.
A motion and a second for discussion purposes. Is this for our well in our system?
Yes. Yeah, as you know, the North Carver Water District has been contracted to handle, to operate that well. And these are some of the needs that were foreseen by the district. Obviously, some of these are planning in nature. I know that the $10,000 for the infrastructure evaluation, there were some issues raised by the former superintendent. I don't know if, I have not spoken to anybody with small water systems regarding this, as to some of issues, some updates they felt would be helpful from both from an operational and safety standpoint. That system is quite a bit older, obviously, than the new North Carver water system. So that was the first issue. The second issue, as you can see, is really a planning study that's requested. And C and D are, I think, follow right along there in terms of some safety issues. But I think that the water commissioners or the superintendent, although that's, on the warrant by the Board of Selectmen, because you own the infrastructure, this is really a vehicle of the North Carver Water District, who's contracted to run the system for you. So whether or not, really they wish to represent these is really their call, even though you own the property. And of course, one of the reasons one of the issues that I get a little concerned about is that you only have December 4th to have a substantive discussion on with the district or the water operators, et cetera, before making a recommendation on this. So how critical this is for the next town meeting is really...
Rick and I had a discussion along these lines, and I felt that maybe we could put in or borrow, because by borrowing it, we could borrow it over 5 years and reduce the amount of money that we have to pull out of their retained earnings, because 4 or 5 years ago, the Board of Selectmen substantially raised the water rates there to build up the fund, and now it's built up quite a bit, but I think we all know that they purchased their own mobile home park down there, and it very well could be that the taxes will rise on that. Maybe we could mitigate it somehow by lowering their rates and maybe pulling a little bit money out of the retained earnings to help them, mitigate
Borrowing
that.
rates are so low right now.
But if we can, instead of drawing it all out in 1 year, we can spread it over 5 years. And we can probably help them as a community, so that not the whole burden is falling on them. But Rick and I would just have to work out the details on how you put borrow in there. Do you agree with that, Rick?
No, I think anytime you can keep that as an option, especially with rates being what they are, I think it's a good thing. obviously, this was drafted between the water commissioners and the town accountant with funds that they identified as available now. So, so they just, again, it was a little bit of a different mindset, but the goal is the same. So we could insert the opportunity to borrow in the article
The
itself.
borrowing rates are right about 1% for short-term borrowing, so.
They
it's-
may go
it would-
lower.
It would be good, and we can spread out those payments over 5 years.
My question is, should we be paying $10,000 for the purpose of a 20-year master plan for the Cranberry Village water system?
Yeah, and it's a good question. I think that's really
I mean, they are a private entity now.
Right.
well,
But
that is true on, yeah, I guess how does one define the Cranberry Village water system, Mr. Chairman? I think that's why it would be important to have,
I mean, does this
Someone from the
encompass
commission here to-
everything in South Carver, or is it just?
No,
No.
that's not my understanding, if I may, Mr. Chair. But I could be wrong. This, I think, is defined by the pipes that we own, the infrastructure we own, and then it stops at the connection.
Okay.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
defining the distribution system.
Does anybody from Cranberry Village know? We don't have any representatives here tonight that, in fact, they have a meeting down there tonight, don't they? No. Okay.
I mean, I'd feel satisfied if we could change to and borrow, or borrow,
right,
and then leave it the same, and then we could, when we make our recommendations on the 4th, we could make our recommendations whether we support certain aspects of it or not, after
Sure.
talking to the water commissioners.
right. And
I'm just trying to spread out the payments and help them with their fund because of maybe difficult situations coming forward.
then we'd have to amend our motion.
Yeah, amend it to
To include,
vote to appropriate
Yeah.
or borrow the sum of $40,000.
yeah.
Would you say that's where we should put it, Rick?
Yeah, or we could put it
Even though
at
part of
the
it's-
end, to come from at the last comma before, or take any other action relative thereto, we could, either place, we could find the appropriate way to ensure
I
that
think
there's
we would have
borrowing
to
capacity.
use the word borrow
Yes,
in order for it to be legitimate.
right. So we can, either at that, one of the two spots, or maybe both, we could
Yeah.
include that.
But Rick and I can
Finalize
work
the
out
warrant.
the
So we are
language.
amending that motion?
You're gonna amend it, Helen,
To put in borrow.
Yes.
put in or borrow, and then,
Yeah.
Dick, did you
To-
second it?
I will.
Yeah.
No, I don't know who seconded it.
Well,
Did
we
I?
originally voted to approve
Oh, I seconded it.
Article 6, but we're going to amend it to, with the amendment attached to add borrow.
And I'll second it.
Say that 5 times fast.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer available funds, or borrow $38,700 for the purpose of funding the town's share of a submitted FEMA fire assistance grant for an additional fire department water tanker, should the application be successful. Said sum to be expended by the fire chief, or take any other action relative thereto by the fire chief. As way of explanation for the audience out there, the anticipated cost of the water tanker is $300,000, with $261,250 to be funded by FEMA if successful. The Carver Fire Department submitted a grant proposal to FEMA for an additional water tanker in August 2012. Awards will be announced from October 2012 through March 2013. A 5% match will be required by the town if we are successful in securing the grant, plus an estimated $25,000 to outfit and customize the tanker for the needs of Carver. The intent of this article is to have sufficient funds available to accept the grant if the Carver Fire Department is awarded the $261,250 in federal grant funds. If the fire department is not awarded the FEMA grant, it is the intent of the fire department to return the funds allocated by this article back to the town.
I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So Rick, were you able to put or borrow in there, or was it already in there?
It's in there.
Okay,
The chief had already put that in initially.
well, that was good.
Yes.
I like that, so.
Yeah.
Because there again, instead of taking all the money and allocating it into an article where if we weren't awarded the tanker, it would sit there until we had to go to another special town meeting. By putting or borrow in, it helps us spread it over 5 years. And if we don't have to use it, you know, it doesn't tie up any funds of ours.
Thank you, Mr. Frame. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $100,000 for the purpose of satisfying a court judgment in the case of Raymond Orr versus the town of Carver, or take any other action relative thereto by the Board of Selectmen.
I make a motion, we approve.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Was this already covered in the annual town meeting, or it wasn't? Did
No.
it come in afterwards?
The officer was paid pursuant to the requirements of the court judgment. It does have to be raised, though, for the purposes of balancing our
But I
books.
thought wasn't he paid before the annual town meeting?
He was, yes. This is necessary to balance our books.
I know that.
This is one of those instances where, in some ways, the community really doesn't have the option not to approve
Well,
it. It's
I
gonna,
realize
one
that,
way or
but-
the other, it's gonna be coming out of our recap.
So you mean when we were at the annual town meeting, it was out of balance by $100,000?
It's a matter of perspective.
I knew we had the race on it. I
All
knew
right.
we had.
We got a right hook and a left uppercut. We done, gentlemen? Okay.
Move the question.
Move the question. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Recusing themselves, 1. 401. All right, moving along, Article 9. See if the town will vote to transfer $77,000 from overlay surplus to FY09 allowance for abatements and exemptions, or take any other action relative thereto.
I would defer to Ellen. She has a very long explanation for this in the next article.
You're combining them
Ellen, raise your
anyhow.
hand. Raise your hand. Come
Aren't you
on.
combining them
The
anyhow?
articles that Ellen spoke to, and
Yeah, that we were gonna combine.
combining
This Article 9
and
is going to be combined with Article 10. We've already had a
Yes.
discussion on this. I think the viewers get it. I'll read Article 10 just so they know what's being combined. To see if the town will vote to appropriate $21,360 under the debt service line, short-term interest from overlay surplus. This action is to pay the interest expense on the Verizon New England abatement or take any other action relative thereto. And do we want a motion to approve this based on
The,
I make a motion that we approve the combined article.
Combined article.
Wording to be completed by the town administrator.
and approved by, I think Ellen should have some say in the final approval
Final numbers.
of the
are-
wording.
The final numbers are hers, yeah.
Is that acceptable? We have a motion?
I
and
made a
second?
motion.
Do we
Oh, I
have a
thought you
second?
made it.
I made the motion.
Did you second it?
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anybody have any confusion on this or concerns or?
Can I just point out, Mr. Chairman, for the people's knowledge at home, that, you know, the money that is being used for this is money that is put aside every year, year after year. In addition to the budget that's appropriated, it's money that's put aside and it accrues over a period of time. So the funds that have been available here have been funds that have been put aside over a period of years and held specifically for this purpose. So this, although it's significant money, is not in any way going to alter the budget position of the town. This is what these funds are intended to do.
Is he all right? Okay, you sure? Why don't you check Mr. Forrester? He tripped. He might have jammed his knee or something.
So in
Okay.
other words, each year, the town appropriates money to be used for abatements, and what's not used from year to year, you can reappropriate them down a overlay surplus and then use them.
Almost exactly correct, except
Yeah.
they don't actually appropriate it. It's held aside on the
Yeah.
recap sheet, so. And it also covers the 3% discount program.
Yeah, and that 3% discount used to be 137,000, now it's only about 40 or 50, isn't it, Ellen?
Well, we have a motion and we have a second.
That's not too bad.
Do we have to have a?
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to authorize the establishment of a municipal insurance revolving account in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to which shall be deposited reimbursements from insurers for injured on-duty medical claims from which the town may make expenditures for the purposes of paying for said claims. Expenditures for FY 2013 from such fund not to exceed $75,000 or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. It's now open for discussion.
What is
Yes,
this?
the need for this is due to the fact that about 2 years ago, we changed the way we purchase our insurance for injury on duty claims for police and firefighters. Prior to that, we paid a premium, a fully insured premium. Since that time, we have a program where we're responsible for deductibles up to a certain amount, and after a certain stop loss, the company insures us. So we have to pay our claims from what we put aside up front for our overall deductible, and we also have to pay claims from the receipts we receive from our insurance company. We have to make payments directly to vendors. It wasn't much of an issue in our first year, but we're at the point now where claims, as you know, tend to lag, and we have bills that need to be paid from insurance receipts, and we didn't. When we first set up went to a different style of insurance, we did not set up an account for this. So we really should have done this a year ago, and this was really, we just didn't anticipate the number of claims would exceed what we had put aside for deductibles in a given year. So this is what allows us to pay our claims on an ongoing basis without having to in any way impact the rest of the operating budget.
Okay.
Is this like a self-funded plan?
That would be the intent, right, that between the town's deductible that we put aside every year, which is a lot less than what we used to pay at a fully insured rate, and the receipts from the insurance company, that it would fully fund our police
So
and
we
fire
would
accident
appropriate
claims.
money into that fund every year? Would we appropriate money
Right,
into
we
that
have
fund?
funds that we appropriate every year in our operating budget, in our municipal insurance line item, and it's about approximately $25,000, and that's what we use as our first payment against claims. After that, everything that we pay is based upon turning around insurance receipts.
So money would come back and be deposited into that account?
Exactly, yes. And right now, we don't have any place to do that, so the receipts go to the general fund. So we have the money, but we don't have any mechanism to pay the vendors with it.
Okay, any further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And one abstention. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $150,000 from the Community Preservation Undesignated Fund Balance to the Carver Local Housing Partnership Committee for the purposes of funding the Carver Purchase and Rehabilitate Program. Said program is intended to reclaim abandoned foreclosed properties in Carver, rehabilitate this property, and resell it to a low, moderate-income family. Said sums to be expended under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee in consultation with the Carver Local Housing Partnership Committee, the Carver Housing Trust, and the Board of Selectmen, or take any other action relative thereto by the Community Preservation Committee. Do I have a motion on this?
I move the question, we approve it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. It's now open for discussion.
Isn't this usually an article that we handle at annual town meeting? Would it really be a special town meeting type of article?
What is and
Who
what
are you
isn't?
asking that question? I see you
Well-
looking at me,
Yeah.
Vice Chairman.
Do you have some concerns,
Well,
Mr. Franny?
my concerns that we originally scheduled this special town meeting so that we could have the tax rate approved, and I didn't expect so many articles to be on it. My concern being is that the special town meeting's on Thursday, and if we don't cover everything, it might roll over into Monday, which will, we're already behind the 8 ball now, having the special town meeting on Thursday. I'm trying to keep it as short as we can so we can ensure that by the end of Thursday night, the town meeting will be concluded and we can get into the business of getting the tax bills out.
Right, and I think it should be kept off this warrant, off this warrant as well, because of the time factor that the town meeting, they voted this down, and there was lengthy discussion at the town meeting, and the voters voted against this. So to put it back on during a December special town meeting, I don't think is in the best interest of the town. I think we should wait for the the regular town meeting.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just, it is generally not my business to get involved in what stays on and what doesn't stay on a warrant, but the one thing that I would point out is that if this town meeting doesn't end Thursday night, we will not have tax bills out on time, because there is a process that the assessors and the town and the collector's office has to engage in to get the tax bills out. The purpose of this town meeting, as it was billed from the beginning, was to balance the budget of the North Carver Water District so that we could have a recap sheet with a balanced budget. So my only concern is that whatever you do, you gotta make sure we get out of there on Thursday night, or the tax bills we're gonna be challenged to get the tax bills out on time. So, like I said, I'm really not completely comfortable opining on the issue of what stays on and doesn't stay on a warrant, but that is a very important factor here.
And this isn't the only article I have a concern with. I have future articles I have concern with that I think could weight down the time element of town meeting. Up until this point, I think it's still a pretty heavy agenda, but there were items that had to be addressed.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, I just wanted to state that my understanding, it's a shame our Director of Planning and Community Development isn't here, but I believe that this is not the same article that town meeting voted down. The Housing Trust has been working on it extensively to change it and to make it something that people might agree with. I would suggest that, if the Board of Selectmen doesn't want to recommend it when we meet next time, then that's it. But it seems a little bit, I don't know if unfair is the word, to take it off. Why are we taking this one off? Why aren't we taking, something else off?
There'll be others that I'll be recommending.
And that's fine. I just mean there's no one here to speak for it. I don't know that anyone was expecting something like this. So just seems like we should just keep it on for now. And then if you don't want to recommend it,
No,
it's fine.
I
But
would
it is a different article.
I would recommend that quite possibly we have another special town meeting in January or February to address the ones that I feel should be removed from it, so that we can expedite this town meeting and get, the point that we really put it together for, to accomplish that.
All right, well, why don't we see if we can get through this first town meeting before we start talking about other special town meetings. But, Ms. Morone?
I believe, Sarah, I may be wrong, but I may be right. I believe at the town meeting that there were two requests or articles brought, and one was this one, and the other one was a first-time buyer program, and both were rejected. And I think we should think of the residents right now, that a lot of residents will not attend the special town meeting because it is a special town meeting and the time of year it is at. And I think this involves a lot of discussion, so everyone has a fair say. And I just think that it will be too involved, too lengthy of a process, and I do not think it should be on the warrant on December 4th.
Okay, I have talked with the Housing Committee there, and I've talked with Mr. Hunter, and, eventually we have to do something with these CPA dollars that are designated for affordable housing. However, I asked Jack to hold off on this until they could put their plan together, make a presentation to the entire board, and show us how they're gonna set this up, how they're gonna run it, and manage it, and how it's gonna function. And the committee, for whatever reason, didn't feel that they wanted to do that, the Housing Partnership Committee. So I think it's kind of a rush, and it should be something that we probably should have on the regular town meeting. As Ms. Morone said, we'll probably have much higher attendance. There'll be more people participating and everything. That's just my feeling. I think we have to do something with the funds. We can't just keep pushing this aside, and we ought to take the opportunity to do what we can to get these uninhabited homes re-inhabited back on the tax rolls, and make sure that we don't go through the broken windows theory that Chief Mix is utterly familiar with vacant houses, because they attract crime, they attract criminals, and they cause a lot of problems for the community. So I think it's something we have to do. I just don't think the special town meeting is the time and place for it. So I would be inclined to agree with Ms. Morone on that. All right. Any other discussion on it? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. All those opposed? Opposed. It's 2 to 3. All right, moving on. General bylaw amendment, Article 13, secondary metals regulation. To see if the town will vote to amend the town's general bylaws, Chapter 8, license and regulation, by adding the following section. And I'm going to ask the chief, is this something that has to go on this town meeting, chief?
No, not necessarily. I'll leave it up to the board. Here's my issue with it. There's gonna be another part to that I planned on the spring, which will take care of pawn shops. Right now, the town is vulnerable to pawn shops or, you know, like we buy gold places coming in.
Right.
Most towns around us are coming up with bylaws where there's a holding period, there's a inventory period on how these things come in. I wanted to try and get that thing in as soon as possible, to try and make sure if somebody comes in town, we have some control over it. Right now, it affects basically one business. I've talked to the business owner, I work with them, they're reasonable with it. In the spring, I plan on having a pawn shop or a secondaries dealer, so to speak, which would, they would overlap to some extent. But I was just trying to do a kind of a stopgap here with the way that stolen jewelry is turned around. And right now, if somebody comes into town, they can take in your ring, melt it down, and have it out of town by the end of the day. It's not an overly complicated bylaw, so you guys tell me, it's your meeting. If you don't think there's enough time, then table it till the spring. If not, then...
Well, typically, we plan probably 2 days in the spring, so we know we're gonna get beat up.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, ma'am.
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 Thanks. I'm a victim of jewelry being melted down, as you are well aware, but it seems pretty lengthy, so I'm thinking, and I would love to be able to be educated on it before, you know, putting this into effect in the town, only because you had said that there's only one business right now that's impacted by it, so the risk to the town isn't that great. Tell me if I'm wrong, Mike.
There's one business right now, there's
Yep.
probably 2 others that potentially have been.
Yep.
But last I spoke to one of them, they said they weren't taking in scrap anymore.
Okay,
That doesn't mean they didn't start up again this week.
right.
Most of that is definition. It really is. It's not, there's nothing complicated in it. It's not a tricky thing. It's pretty
You've
straightforward.
been to town meeting, right, Mike?
I know. That's why I tried to keep it pretty straightforward,
Yeah,
and
just-
most of it's definition.
Yeah, I hate to disappoint you, but this was one of the other articles. I know this is very important to you, and I appreciate everything that you've done, but it's really critical that we be able to wrap up town meeting on Thursday and, you know, talk about maybe having another special town meeting where we could bring these issues forward.
Like I said, it's your meeting. If you don't think
Yeah.
it should be on there now, that's fine.
It's only
I'd be
because of the
negligent by
timing.
not bringing something forward
Oh, absolutely.
as soon as possible. And
We don't want to minimize the effort you put into this. I mean,
No.
this is good.
No.
trust me, it wasn't a huge effort. It wasn't that hard, okay? Don't, you guys,
Okay, all right, we'll minimize it.
it wasn't overly complicated, trust me, it wasn't. You go to other towns that have them, you say what works, and I went to the business and worked on a reasonable time frame for them.
But
Something that he knew
what
he'd still
happens,
make money.
You go to town meeting, you think something's not gonna take too long, and
That's
spend a
fine.
lot of time on it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would say, like, with this and the previous bylaw, I think these deserve, you know, some presentation at a regular meeting, and we don't have to wait until we have another warrant coming up.
Right.
No.
If we know that the prior article, we know that this article, we know these are coming in some fashion, so there's no reason we can't meet in, you know, a little part of our meeting over a period of time to have these presentations done, so, because, you know, once the town meeting rush starts,
Right.
you know, there's 1,000 different things
Yeah.
coming at you.
And knowing the vendors that you're talking about have been cooperative with us and done a good job, and I think that there's not a real sense of urgency right now, other than the tax rate. So-
My fear is one of these vacant places in the strip mall, some We Buy Gold's gonna pop up, which happened in Halifax. recently. So that was it. I'm just trying to protect people, but it's your meeting. If you don't want it on now, then we put it on in the spring.
I make a motion, we disapprove this article.
Disapprove, or you mean?
Harsh.
you
That's a
mean-
bit harsh. I mean, I know it wasn't a ton of work for me. now, but
Take it off the agenda.
Can we
Take
can
it
we
off
make
the
like a
agenda.
motion to put it on in the spring or something, Jack? That would make
I
me
make
feel
a
a little
motion, we
better.
fold it up and stick it in the chief's back
Careful
pocket.
now, careful.
We're live on air,
Oh,
Jack.
Could we just
bring
like
it
table it
back.
until?
Make a motion, we table it until our next special town meeting.
We were told we couldn't do
Or
that.
annual.
You either accept or reject, so.
Yeah.
So I was trying to reject
Yeah,
it.
you were.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, just reject it a little less
Yeah.
harshly, please, will you?
Never rejected.
So we have a motion to
Just
reject the
table.
chief's article less harshly.
That sounds
We have a
worse.
second.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. All those abstaining? One abstaining. We're good, thank you.
All right, thanks. Good night.
All right. 13.
It's on page 6, Mike.
Yep. Zoning, large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installations. Zoning bylaw amendment, it's Article 14, and
This was another article I was gonna recommend that we take off the warrant as well, because I think it could lead to quite a bit of discussion at the,
by the Solar Bylaw Committee.
I did talk to one of the
Do we have
proponents.
a motion first? Let's get a motion and a second. We'll open it up
I'll
for
make a
discussion.
motion that we reject this.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second to reject this. It is now open for discussion. And Ms. Morone, would you like to kick off?
Well, as far as I understand it, the solar committee and the planning board have been working diligently on this because we had until year end. Please tell me if I'm wrong, if anybody's out there. Year end to come up with a bylaw, or else we go back to square one based on the discussion that came up at town meeting when Eric Tobolsky had put together a bylaw. And as I understood it, that the agreement is that we would form a solar bylaw committee. They would go back together and try to come up with a solution. And this is the solution, and I know that the planning board and the solar bylaw committee are meeting again this week to discuss finalization of this. So I think this would be a total disservice to what was told at town meeting that the town would do by developing the solar committee and just to take this off of the warrant article, because we only had until the end of December. So I'm gonna have to just,
Okay, that's the constraint. We're limited by the fact that
that's right.
we accepted a commitment to have an answer on this by the end of the year.
That is
Okay.
correct. And
Right.
if we don't put this on the warrant, then the town goes back into limbo on large-scale solar projects, which is, the solar committee had had contracted with Bridgewater State University to have a residential survey done, and it was a much higher ratio that residents were very concerned that something should be put together for a large-scale solar project. So I do not think this should come off of the warrant
This could,
for this
this
town
could,
meeting.
this could jeopardize having that meeting completed by the end of the night, because there's gonna be a tremendous amount of, in the 7 pages of it. We really gotta digest this and understand what's going on.
I understand, Jack, but again, we're in a little bit of a conflict because at town meeting, we told the people that this is what we were going to do to protect the residents, is to have some sort of solution by the end of December. So now we're gonna be contradicting what we, as a town, said that we would do.
Well, in future articles that extend that moratorium on, having the solar, I think, maybe I'm not correct on that. So you're gonna, because we wanna make that commitment, we might possibly not get the tax bills out, and we'll have to borrow money.
Would just, that will be, will that not be up to the moderator to keep a time frame on the
No.
discussion? I mean, that's the role of the moderator, to make sure that,
If you lose your quorum.
I understand that, but I'm just laying it out there, what we had committed to the town.
The sole purpose on having this special town meeting was to be able to set our tax rate. And, that's the principal reason we did this.
But I believe that if we talk to the moderator and make it clear that he has to set a time frame on the articles that may be
I
a
don't-
lengthier discussion. Again, this is my opinion, and this is,
And what if we never had a special town meeting? You'd still have the same dilemma.
Well, we are having one, so let's
Yeah.
not get off into
Yeah.
the twilight zone here, please.
Can I
Jack,
ra-
we understand your position. Helen, we understand yours. Rick, you want to contribute something?
Just raising an issue here. It is a zoning article. It requires a two-thirds vote to approve. And if, if you're trying to get approval on a 7-page article in a small window of time at more than a two-thirds majority, that could be difficult to accomplish. And if you're unsuccessful, you can't bring that back for a period of, I believe, 2 years before you can bring back the same language at town meeting. That's not our rules, that's state law. So I think there's a little bit of a conundrum here. That's
There's
the
a big
only
gamble here.
concern I would, that doesn't mean town meeting, you could leave it on the warrant and decide the town meeting not to act on it, to pass over it, but I'm not, I think I just think there's a little bit of a gamble either way here. That's all I'm gonna be aware of.
And plus the fact is, it's 7 pages, and people have to have time to educate themselves. Is it enough time between now and, if we didn't have that Thursday special town meeting, it would be a little bit better, but I mean, Thursday, and it gets extended, you go into Monday, you're doing another 3 days, 4 days in there, which is critical.
Mr. Fortier had his hand raised, and I'm going to ask him to come up and speak at the microphone. I know he's been attending the solar bylaw committee
Yeah, I
meetings.
heard some rumors, John 4076 Cranberry Road, heard some rumors about a second article to extend the pilot program to the end of the fiscal year. Did that not make it? And I think that was just in case the bylaw committee, couldn't get the planning board approval or couldn't get this bylaw.
It could be.
It's the next article,
Yeah.
although
It is
it
the next
doesn't,
article. So
it
if
doesn't
you-
say have a time frame for the extension in the article.
So that's an option, I would suppose. I mean, I agree with Helen, the bylaw committee put a lot of effort, the planning board.
And it's a long article, and I think there's gonna be quite a bit of discussion.
Absolutely.
It's a good bylaw, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hewens, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No, thank you.
Mr. Wood? Do you have anything you want to add to this?
No.
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe if you share what Article 15 states, because John is right that there is
Yeah.
a
Right,
subsequent
there's-
article
yeah.
that talks about the
Yeah.
what if we don't approve this, and someone else has their hand up as well.
Well,
Michelle has her hand up.
my thoughts were that maybe we might ask a representative from the solar bylaw committee or representatives to come in at the December 4th meeting, maybe just table this until that time, and let them explain to us the options on these two, 14 and 15. Can we do that? Is that a possibility?
We can invite somebody. My only, obviously, the decision as to what's going to be posted on the warrant is going to be
Exactly.
done
Been
tonight.
done, all right.
Okay,
So, because, again, we need 14 days posting for a special town meeting, so
Okay.
that's going to get done pretty quickly, so.
Let me read Article 15 then, and then people can mull that over for a few minutes, and we can make a decision then, I guess. To see if the town will vote to request that the Board of Selectmen not negotiate or execute any tax agreements or payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreements for any new solar projects or take any action relative thereto. By way of explanation, this is in the event the Solar Bylaw Study Committee's article is not passed by the Board of Selectmen. Sounds like a fallback position.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, I think that needs some kind of time frame too. I mean, the way town meeting wanted it, we had said fiscal year Last town meeting, they asked to make that at the end of the calendar year, so I don't know, because otherwise that's like forever, unless that's what you
No,
want to do.
I think you would probably want to put a timeline of, another year, because,
That's fine.
general zoning principle is that, you can't pass a moratorium forever, or
Right.
your moratorium is effectively no good in terms of protecting the community from developments of whatever they might be, so. So if you're inclined to do that, I think you would want to include some deadline.
So we could amend this to include the wording till the end of 2013?
December 2015. All right, I think what we need to do first is we need to take a vote on Article 14.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think
Oh, I'm sorry,
there
Michelle,
was
did you
one
have
other
some?
person that had raised their hand.
Please come up to the microphone.
Michelle Cohen, 3 Leland Way. I appreciate the fact that, we're trying to get a bylaw passed. As you know, I was part of the Purchase Street project and everything. We've been going through this for a year and a half. I mean, the Middleborough residents don't really have any say, and there's only three houses in Carver that can speak up. We've been going through this for a year and a half, and not to have something in place to protect other residents, because you extending the moratorium is great. That's fantastic, because you're not getting a tax break. That doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going to come in and try to put another large solar array in another part of the town. I just don't think it's fair to the residents that have worked very hard to get these things together, so.
No, and I agree with you, but my main concern is to get that tax rate set. And that was the purpose we had the special town meeting. And I think to leave this on the agenda and to kick the prior 2 articles off the agenda would be unfair to those proponents as well.
With all due respect, Mr. Franny, at town meeting in May or April or whenever it was, we were told that there would be a bylaw by December, that this group would create a bylaw that residents could fall back on. And by not creating one, that proves distrust a little bit. And I hate to say that, because I know that people have been working very hard.
But you have to
And
understand my position.
I
as being
completely understand.
the
and
treasurer, and,
I understand your position. I really do, and I respect your position. However, it creates a little distrust in the residents of the town if you don't come up with something that you said would be done by December.
I'm concerned about the bond rating and everything else. If we don't get tax bills out, who knows what impact that will have on our bond rating in the future. I think we have to be responsible.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't know this answer. Hopefully you may, from being in your position for so long. Can you put a warrant article out and require that a certain time frame is spent on each article at the town meeting in order to be able to make the time frame that we are all concerned about in terms of the tax rate that Jack is referring to?
I would say that you can't. Number one, we have an elected moderator. Almost every town does have an elected moderator, and it would really be the role, short of a bylaw that governs how town meeting is conducted, that the moderator would have to follow. To me, it would be up to the moderator, and I don't think that you can compel the moderator to do anything specifically. It would be his judgment as to how to handle these articles. So, certainly it would be, fair to have a discussion with Mr. Bentley, and we, probably wouldn't be a bad idea for him to be at our next meeting anyway. Obviously, the problem becomes the time. You've got the time frame you're into here.
There's always the opportunity to have another special town meeting. Costs maybe, $300, $400, $500 to have one. But time is of the essence to be able to get this tax rate set and get the bills out. I mean, even if you wanted to do it a week later, 2 weeks later, or a month later, you could still accomplish what you wanted to do.
Well, unlike the other lengthy, extensive articles that are being proposed here, this committee was tasked last year, and they were given a definitive drop-dead date to come up with something by town meeting. So I think that we have to adhere to that. I'm gonna trust that the judgment of the town moderator will keep us from going beyond the time frame in order to get the tax bills processed. I think one of his charges is to keep the meeting moving, stimulate the discussion, and then precipitate a vote
Get us out of there, hopefully.
to get us out of there in a reasonable amount of time, so. This is something that was worked on by a diverse group of people in town that come from a lot of different areas, a lot of different opinions. I'm sure that there was a lot of hand-to-hand combat, you know, that went into this, and this is what they proposed to us. So I want to remain optimistic that they will get the message out before town meeting so that people will have a lot of their questions answered when they come there, and we're not going to have to spend a lengthy amount of time on this. That's my opinion, so. We have a motion to reject. Did we have a second on that?
Yes, we did.
And we had a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of rejecting this article, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Opposed. 2-3 is the vote. So the article will remain. Mr. LaFont, you know, we certainly don't want to inhibit Mr. Bentley in doing his job, but
That's
maybe
gonna be
we can
key.
talk to him, and and he'll be the key in this.
Yeah, and at the next December 4th meeting, we'll invite all the proponents of the articles that are on the warrant, including this committee.
Absolutely.
And the moderator, and hopefully, because of the short time frame, we're gonna have to ask him to do some presentation to the board on that date, so.
Okay.
Just like every other proponent, so.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to make it clear that the reason why I'm so for this getting on versus the other articles that we all know are going to cause discussion is because we promised the residents something, and I believe in the moderator with his experience that he is going to keep this meeting on target. And I believe that if the town people understand that the tax rate cannot be set unless your article is passed.
Not sure, that's a lot of.
Well, maybe I should reword
I'm
that.
not sure that's very enticing.
The bottom line is, I really think that Bob Bentley, the moderator, will do his job to make sure we get out of there on time.
Okay, we're moving on. Article 15. To see if the town will vote to request that the Board of Selectmen not negotiate or execute any tax agreements or payment in lieu of taxes, called the pilot agreement, for any new solar projects or take any action relative thereto.
I make a
Again-
motion, oh,
Again, by way of explanation, this is in the event the Solar Bylaw Study Committee's article is not passed.
make a motion, we approve.
With the caveat that there's a time frame put on this, I think that that's what
Oh,
Ms.
yeah.
Ms. Ewan's brought up.
Make a motion, we amend it. You want to do that, Sarah?
Yes, until the end of the calendar year, December 2013.
So you making the motion, I'll second it.
Okay.
All right,
So moved.
Elaine, you have that? We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to adopt the following warrant item. No tax breaks shall be granted to renewable energy projects located within the town of Carver without approval of 2/3 majority of town meeting. Any tax breaks, as approved by 2/3 majority of town meeting, may only be granted to projects in zones which town zoning bylaws specifically authorize renewable energy projects. Tax breaks may be included in agreements such as, but not limited to, payments in lieu of taxes, pilot program again, power purchase agreements, PPA, and all other such agreements which would effectively assess taxes on land at a value lower than that of the underlying zoning district, and on associated equipment including standard depreciation as allowed by state regulations, or take any other action relative thereto. And this is a petition article. So
we can't vote on it.
So this, if they got the requisite signatures, this goes on the warrant. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, so. Do we even take a vote on this, or?
There's no need.
No need,
you have
yeah.
no choice, right?
And that concludes special town meeting warrant. Okay, thank you. All right. Wait for Ms. Marone to come back. Does anybody need a break?
Yeah, that'll be good. She took her own break.
3 minutes this time, Mr. Frank. All right. Order. Yep. That didn't work too well. It's all Ed's fault. Okay, next up, discussion of delegating 1 or 2 members to serve on the Town Accountant Screening Committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
No, the town accountant has accepted another position in another community.
That's formal now?
It is, yes, that is and not on the agenda per se, but Mike, Jack and I had a discussion last week about how to approach interim services, which we'll be doing. But we do have to get going as quickly as possible on a screening committee for the new town accountant, whoever that might be. So in that vein, I'm certainly asking, a member of the board, and if 2 members, obviously we can't have a quorum, who wish to be a part of that, going to try to move that fairly quickly. The first thing is to update our position description, which won't take too much tweaking, but it does require a little bit. And then ultimately, I certainly want to invite the chairman of the Finance Committee, someone from the school department, and I know there's others who might have some interest, but we want to get this going as quickly as possible with a reasonably small group, just to get it rolling. So anybody who would like to participate, I'd be very happy if you would like to do so, if you could designate those people.
What worked well when we were able to get it going, and that's what we talked about, was the screening committee we used for the legal services. There was Mr. LaFond, 2 selectmen, and what they did is they went through all the applications, sorted them out, discarded the ones that did not meet the requirement, and bring 3 to the board, and ranked them according to the criteria that's established. And I think that just makes it a much smoother process. And, I think it will expedite it too. So that was what we talked about. And as far as an interim, I think there's going to be some RFPs going out for a couple of firms. Rick and I and Jack discussed that. And
Yes, and not formal, but more of
Just request for
one
quotes.
page, some one-pagers, but.
so we can get some proposals for somebody to come in on an interim basis to make sure that we do not fall in a big rut here.
Right.
Through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
My inkling would be that Jack Franny probably should be one of the selectmen, only because he works so closely with the town accountant, and he has the most experience, I would think.
Yeah, I'm a
And
former town accountant,
CPA
so,
as
yeah.
well. So that would be one.
Well, I was hoping that we would get people with numbers, experience, background on those committees. I declined. Ms. LaFond offered me an opportunity. I declined. Because I think they speak the same language as this individual, and they're more likely to understand what's going on, so.
If you have the chairman of the finance committee, he is a CPA, right?
No.
I don't know if he's a
No, he's
CPA,
not.
but.
Or accountant.
Well,
He's an
again,
accountant.
Right.
first of all, just so you know, Dick, the goal here isn't to define an entire group. It's really to get to define what the board, participation from the board's gonna be, because I would, certainly want Mr. Cotter's input at some point. We certainly want the input from the school administration at some point. The goal, obviously, is to expedite this at the front end. As you know, I have the obligation to appoint the town accountant. The board has the opportunity to veto any appointments within a certain time frame. So it's important to me to build that bridge with the members of the Board of Selectmen, so that there's confidence all around, not just by this board, but by the school committee and by other people in this town when a decision is ultimately made. So I think it's important that, that right out of the gate, that we can get some interest from the board. And again, I've asked for a member or two. It really depends on people's availability. A lot of this, hopefully will be done really during, as for my own benefit, during regular business hours or close to it, as much as possible. But that's just, but obviously we want to work cooperatively.
I would also think that if you're gonna be interviewing candidates for it, it might be more feasible to have them come in at nighttime, then they wouldn't
Well, they
have to
have to work,
disrupt
yeah.
their work schedule and give their position away.
Well,
No, and I
the
also,
committee's not gonna be interviewing anybody, Jack.
well, eventually.
They're just gonna whittle it down to the applicants, the 3 applicants, and then we're gonna do a public interview process, correct?
But
Well, no.
If it's during the day, though, everyone has their roles to play, so for,
Let me step
I don't
back.
think that should be a determining factor as to
No.
how you
I
choose.
only gave you my preference and
Mhm.
only that, just from a purely selfish reason, Helen. So if you wanted to participate, we'd obviously accommodate. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
Well, just in general, it seems like that comes up a lot, and we've
Right, but
wanted to
keep-
talk
but-
about
but-
committees as well, being after 5 o'clock.
But keep in mind, again, this isn't, this is, the board doesn't do public interviews. This is a committee that's designed to help me appoint somebody. And then, hopefully that'll be the end of it unless the board feels it has a reason to veto that appointment. So, hasn't happened yet, primarily because we've tried to include members of the board in every major appointment so that we don't have to get to that point. But I agree that, Jack, is that if you have people during the night, during the day, they've got to make excuses at work, while, and it's certainly, it's not completely fair to people to do that, but I can try, Helen.
Also, I can, you're gonna invite John Carter to
Eventually, yeah, I think we
And-
want to get out of the blocks in a hurry and then include
And
these other
Pat
people.
Mahar, and I think you should also invite the assessor too,
I would-
because she would work closely with any new town accountant
I
too,
would be
as well.
thrilled to do that. I know Ellen has a lot to provide, too. So I
let
know
me-
Jack would
Let me back up here. I'm getting a little bit confused because this seems to be deviating from what we discussed the other day. We're gonna set up a committee of 3 people, yourself and 2 selectmen, to call out the applicants, correct?
that, I think, would be the best way to approach it,
Okay.
yes. Initially,
All
just
right,
to get through.
and I agree, and I agree.
If we get 100 applicants.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to have 19 people get that down to 20.
You're just gonna complicate the process,
Right.
that's right. And like I said, I think it worked well once we got going on the Legal Services Committee. We were able to zip right through. We went down the criteria of the applicants, and we were able to get it to a reasonable working group. Now, after that part of the process, what do you envision then?
What I envision is that I would ask Mr. Carter, Mr. Mahar, and again, certainly if Ellen, or even if Ellen or a member of the Board of Assessors, but Ellen would be best, wishes to participate in actually the interview process, that would really be excellent. And in the end, they would make a recommendation collectively to me as to who they feel should be the town accountant. And hopefully, that person would be appointed, and the selectmen would choose not to veto that. That would be my preference, that the board choose
Well,
not to veto that.
to know whether we want to veto or not, we need to be involved in that interview process. So my thoughts were that after we did the culling of the applications, they would come and do a public interview here with the board. You invite Mr. Mahar and you invite Mr. Carter, and they can sit on, and we can all ask them questions to determine who we think we would like.
I guess what it sounds like, Mr. Chairman, is that you're looking to appoint the town accountant rather than the town administrator appoint the town accountant, or you'd like to tell the town accountant who you'd like me to appoint, as opposed to participating in the process as we've done for 16 years now.
I'd like us all to be in harmony and on the same page,
Oh, I would agree.
so we don't have to do any vetoes or anything else.
Right, and
That's my point.
And that is why I'm asking for people to participate in the process, so that we don't have to do that. But obviously, I have to do my job. There's a reason I presume, why the town outlined my job the way it is. And we've never had a problem as long as we have the right participation. So once again, I mean, I think you will find that the board will be very happy with the way this goes as long as we get the right participation from all the appropriate parties. But I'm not sure what a public interview by a non-appointing authority for an appointment process would be rather unprecedented.
I think it happens all the time in a lot of towns.
I'd like to know where that is, because I don't know.
They bring in candidates and they view them on, they interview them on TV.
Well, yeah, if you're the appointing authority, you would do that, yes. But if you're not the
So that's what I'm
appointing-
talking about.
But if you're not the appointing authority, why you wouldn't do that? Why, I mean,
Well,
what,
even if you're the appointing authority, why can't we do that?
well, I guess I'm not sure why you would want to do that. If you're gonna participate in the process, members of the board from stage one to the very end.
Is there a problem with a public interview process?
No.
What we're talking about here?
No, there isn't a problem.
I
with
don't
that.
care who interviews them, I just like to have it public, is what I'm saying.
No, that's an interesting proposition for a candidate, I suppose.
Well, when they get down to one of three candidates, I mean, you know, I think that some of the privacy concerns go out the door at that point in time. Does anybody want to jump in on this issue? or-
No, I mean, I think it's a good discussion.
I think it might be worth finding out. In my limited knowledge, I'm not aware of any departmental head position like that that gets interviewed publicly, but I could be wrong.
The only reason I think it may be a good idea, and, because I'm thinking it through as it's being discussed, is for full disclosure and to avoid a veto in terms of working in camaraderie, and it would also save from having all these separate meetings with, because we haven't really solidified how it's going to work, but if Ellen, Pat, and John Carter are there when we're having this interview, if you will, in the public, then it can all be done at the same time. And then everybody will be in camaraderie, so you don't have to, because you mentioned about the Board of Selectmen vetoing it approximately 3 times in your discussion, so there's a concern there. So if we're all on the same page before that even comes to it, it'll be, so that, I'm just thinking through that this may be a good idea.
Right, but first of all.
Unless it's not
First of
legal.
all, there obviously have to be many interviews before anybody is deemed a finalist. You
Right,
can't just pick finalists from paperwork.
Right.
And anytime, I wouldn't even want to be interviewing any people without, the school involved and John Carter involved. And the last couple of times we did this, we were fortunate to get our independent audit firm to donate some time to participate also, because that's a great resource, and they know who's out there, and they know people's reputations. So I guess I'm just a little bit, confused as to how this would work. I would make an appointment, and then you'd bring the finalists in to interview them, to determine, it's just a little bit awkward, that's all. Or there would be interviews with the board, and then,
I'm trying to think about the other positions that the director of the library, the town planner, conservation agent. What process do you use there? Isn't this the same process we should use?
I'm sorry.
For all those positions that I just mentioned.
Well,
The library director of the library.
well, for
the
instance, with
conservation
the
agent,
library director years ago,
Town planner.
we had members of the library trustees who participated in the process as part of the search committee. It was
And then do you
in-house.
bring them,
And then
how do you?
they made a recommendation to me, and I agreed with that recommendation, and That's the way it's been since then. Similar, I can't
With
remember
the
all.
town planner.
The town
It's the
planner
same
was
thing.
fairly similar, where some members of the planning board, and I think a member of the Board of Selectmen at the time, participated in as a search committee.
Wouldn't you use a similar process?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was presuming I was gonna do. I mean, that's,
If I may, Mr. Chair, I happen to have been on the planning board when we were searching for a planner, and I was one of those two, along with a member of the Board of Selectmen. And we did interviews, but it wasn't a public interview. It was a cooperative effort, and then made a recommendation to Mr. LaFawn, and he appointed.
yeah,
That's the
and
most
again, that's
recommended.
why I really want members of the Board of Selectmen involved. I mean, that's why, it's critical, so.
All right,
I
well, why don't
will-
we do this a step at
I
a time?
do
then?
say one thing, I don't volunteer for this committee.
There you go. Well, it's,
Me
Why
neither.
don't we set up the screening committee first of all, okay, with Mr. LaFawn and the two selectmen? And we'll get that out of the way, and we can work on the other
Yeah,
details as we go
I
along.
think that's a
Can
good
you
idea.
We'll have a job application to refine.
You be on that?
We got work to do.
I could if somebody wants me on it.
And we're not anticipating filling the position till after the
You're
new
on,
year.
You're on.
There's no way
I
we're
do
gonna
a
be
lot
able
of
to accomplish
interviewing.
that.
Right.
And,
Okay,
you know,
all right.
And I will, if I could say, I think most of us know that 99% of the time, given the same information, we all come to the same conclusions. And obviously, I want us to all come to the same conclusion, but I agree, Mr. Chairman, I think that makes sense. Why don't we take this one step at a time? And if we could get some help from the Board of Selectmen to get this rolling, we can take it from there.
All right, all volunteers for the board, one step forward.
Not me.
I make a,
Well, I thought it was nice the way Helen volunteered Jack.
All right,
I'll make a motion, we appoint Helen Maroney to the
there's a
screening
motion to
committee.
appoint Helen Maroney.
Second.
There's a
Second
second,
that motion.
Excellent.
okay?
And we'll work with you, Helen. Schedule.
Any discussion on Miss Maroney's, is it Marone or Marone?
It is Maroney.
All right, any
Should I
further
tease
discussion?
him wildly about
nomination?
this?
There's an eye on
Please
the
do.
end there.
We'll pick on him later.
There's an eye on the end.
Hearing no further discussion of any importance. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Miss Maroney is one of the victims. All right, we need another one.
Well, I think wasn't that,
Well, you don't need one, but if you'd like to have one, I'd
You have
be
to
more
make a
than
motion.
happy.
Did you?
I
you have to make a
nominate
motion?
Jack Franey.
Mr. Ward nominates Mr. Franny.
I will second that.
There's a second on it. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I abstain.
One abstention.
No,
You should vote against it, is what you should.
Oh, God save us. All right. We're off to the races. We got to start anyways.
Yeah, we gotta get rolling.
Okay, next up is the discussion on use of town council policy.
yeah,
I brought this up to Rick
Yeah.
the other day because, Helen, you had approached me on it, and I know you've been doing a lot of research on
well, I
legal
have.
expenses and stuff, so why don't you take the floor on that?
I have. One of my concerns when I had originally suggested that we go back to the table of interviewing attorneys is number one. I feel that when a vendor is with a town or any company for a long period of time, it's not good practice. And one of the concerns I had as well was the costs that we've expended over the years. And I had just gone through 1 year of bills, and to me, it's a little concerning. So what I thought I would like to talk about is just one portion of the bill in terms of being open with the residents and how we're spending our legal monies, more so in terms of our general inquiries to town council. When I was looking at the bills over the year, there'd be general, phone call to attorney for a general inquiry on such and such. So I went through and to see which ones weren't relative to, for example, a police union contract, et cetera, because that's a no-brainer, you need to bring in counsel. But the ones that I felt very much so, number one, who has the permission to just call K&P, the attorney? Is there any checks and balances on just picking up the telephone to make these calls? And when, you know, just to give you an idea on the open council, it's not a big amount of money, but it's a start in terms of looking at the costs that we are expending in this town. And let's see, council inquiries, the ones, in my opinion, were unnecessary, or at least should have been addressed, you know, and who says we can make this call? This is the residents' money. Was approximately $2,300. And again, that does not seem like a lot of money, but that's only one line item that I would eventually like to discuss in terms of how we spend the taxpayers' money in terms of these inquiries. So that's why.
If I could comment?
Sure.
A couple things. First of all, you know, we've got $30+ million budget, and at some point there's a department head who is, or a board that ultimately decides, you know, approves all those funds. This obviously is a piece of it. Many years ago, don't ask me how many, the board did vote to make the town administrator essentially the gatekeeper of access to town council, so that people aren't just randomly picking up the phone. So it has to be, so people would contact me, check with me as to whether or not the issue was relevant enough. And
who did this? I'm sorry, I missed.
This was a vote of the board years ago.
Okay.
You know, and so that's how we've been doing it ever since. Obviously, you know, there are issues that are not generated by us. You know, sometimes they may go to a state agency who would be contacting town council. You know, and we hear from town council things that, you know, from state agencies. So sometimes it's a top-down as opposed to a bottom-up. So, so for the most part, I think, you know, and again, to the extent that, you know, you have particular questions about some issues, again, I'd be more than love to sit down and talk to you about those, and even bring in any department head or heads that might be involved in that, so that you feel comfortable about the issues specifically. So,
well, and Rick, this is not that I don't have faith in you, but coming from a regulated industry that I do, and municipalities run quite similar in terms of regulations and things like that, so that's where my brain's coming from. I believe in checks and balances, and you know, and it's great that everyone comes to you, but I just think there should be a person, like an intermediary, to screen these. To give you an example of what concerns me about the attorney, and I'm full disclosure, you all knew that I had really wanted to look and revisit our attorney relationship. We spent from, I did a quick screen from March to March of 2011 to March of 2012. We spent $15,300 on open meeting law violations. And as I read through these, you know, because the invoice will show a little brief description, and when I read through these open meeting law violations, I think at this point, we should be surmising what open meeting law violations that we should have the answer to at this point, and not have to submit to every single open meeting law violation to seek counsel on it. Do you see what I'm saying? So
I see what you're saying, but every issue has its own dynamics, and without discussing any particular one, it's kind of hard for me to have a, you know, to get in more depth on that. And like I said, you know, I'd be more than happy to have discussions on any in particular one, or all of them, because there's oftentimes they're not as simple as it would seem. One of the things, and believe me, and I understand your concern, and but you know, we don't have an exorbitant legal budget for an organization of this size, and we've done a good job. We had 3, 4, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we had a couple really sizable years, primarily because of just a tremendous amount of police issues that were going on at the time. But for the most part, we've done a pretty good job staying on budget. Now, that doesn't mean we should be spending money that we don't have to spend just because we're on budget. But we really do try to be careful. In fact, a lot of times, it's the phone call, the $35, $50 phone calls is what saves you sometimes an awful lot of money on the back end. So there's a lot of judgment that has to go on as to what's preemptive use of council versus reactive use, which tends to cost you more. So, like I said, without having, and I know this isn't the time for it, but if you pick out certain issues, I'd love to discuss them with you. One of the things that, and the chairman and I had a discussion at the end of the week about this, and one of the things that I can offer that might be helpful in the short term is to try to keep on a weekly or bi-weekly time frame, an ongoing update for the board on pending legal matters and anything new that should come up. So you have because it was pointed out, it's true, you see the bill, but by the time you see the bill, a lot of things have happened. So it might be, so I agreed that it might be helpful for me to try to do that on a regular basis so that you're more aware of things before you see it on the bill, and that may provide some comfort level. And I'm happy to do that if that's what the board would like me to start doing. It might help your comfort level. And again, if there's particular issues, if we carve out time, I'd love to sit down and talk to you about them specifically. And I even know for a fact that, as I think all the board does, that if members of the Board of Selectmen contact, the boys in Boston, Copman and Page, they don't charge for that. So if you had some particular concerns about any issue or the way it was handled, we can talk to, K&P directly, without incurring costs for that. So I want to give you a comfort level that, the way we're handling it is to try to preempt larger things from going wrong and stay within the budget. And we've done that pretty well for a long period of time. And like I said, if it's a matter of trying to give you a better feel for issues earlier rather than later, I'm more than happy to try to find a way to do that.
I would like to see something. I mean, again, I am into checks and balances. And again, I know you don't like to compare, the private sector versus municipalities, and I'm told that it's different, but
Only when it works to my advantage. Ellen.
Exactly. There's general principles that are the same, and checks and balances are one of them. And in the private sector, we have an attorney for our company. However, before we go through our attorney, we always have to present it to the president. So number one, there's full communication about what's happening, and number two, to make sure there's not an alternative solution to it. So I guess my recommendation would only be, I think we're on the right track, Rick, but I think that that there should be something real-time before the call is made. And I think that we should, I would recommend making a motion that before, especially, and I will specify, just to keep the process simple and, grow with this process, is if there's anything to do with open meeting law violations, I think it should be brought at least to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen prior to a call being made. You see what I'm saying? And keep it, or a general inquiry that is just, you want, or one of the department heads wants an opinion about something coming up. I think that at least real time, that at least I'm just making this motion that at least the chairman should be aware of it, so the communication stays open and that we can possibly make other recommendations to avoid, to help with these costs and et cetera. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Jump in here. Miss Ewens.
Me,
Oh, would you take, I'm sorry.
I think that would be difficult for the chairman, for one thing. And if it's a crucial issue that has to be answered, I'm just trying to think, who else would you have to okay calls to town council? Will you have to be the town administrator or the chairman of the board? And but how is Mike gonna be accessible to have meet those needs? You know, that's probably why the Board of Selectmen did that to begin with, delegated that authority to the town administrator.
The open meeting law, we have a certain amount of time to respond, so I do not believe that that would be a detriment to Rick making a phone call to the Board of Selectmen. I'm just recommending the chair because he's the chair.
Well, and/or you have the vice chair too, if there's
Exactly.
matters that I can't participate.
Or the general inquiries.
If I could jump in a little bit on that. Number
Sure.
one, if it's I think to the extent that you try to make, type of general requirements that are hard for me to interpret, is difficult. If your issue is specific to trying to deal with how we react to an open meeting law complaint, I think that's fine. If you want to set up, I'm happy to agree that if we get an open meeting law complaint, I will discuss it with the chairman or the vice chairman if it's more appropriate before any discussion with town council. That's fine. Whether if it's but again, sometimes the calls don't come from us. They come from state agencies to town council regarding issues and complaints at different levels. But I think with regard to that type of specific issue, I think that's an easy thing for me to say, okay, I understand exactly what you're talking about, and I can tell you right now, tonight, start doing that tomorrow, if that's the way you want to handle those. I think when it starts getting into just more general discussions with council, you really do need to be able to pick up the phone and have that quick conversation, quite often, that again saves you a heck of a lot of time and aggravation down the road.
I agree with that. I would agree with that to start with the open meeting law violations, just to get acclimated to a change. Change is not easy, but I think checks and balances is really important. I would have no problem trying to put together something for general council inquiries, so you would have a form, not a format, but
well, we actually have form templates that we
yeah, because again, I don't think there's any situation, quite frankly, that is that urgent that a phone call can't be made to either the board of the chair or the vice chair.
Well, I think that you're going down a little bit of a slippery slope in that, we have things happening constantly, and, not just labor, but, all kinds of things. And, with specific areas, I can appreciate that.
Right.
But, this isn't a budget issue, okay? We have done a good job managing the budget, okay? If this is an issue of knowledge, like I said, I'm more than happy to try to put together and maintain some sort of ongoing list of legal activity so that before you see the bill, you see something a little more, you get a preview of it. But it's going to get a little bit difficult if I need to be contacting someone on the Board of Selectmen before any contact with council is made. I just don't think that's necessary. I don't think we've done anything to require that type of response from the board. I think we've done a good job of managing the legal budget, but I do appreciate that you may want to have more knowledge at an earlier point in time, and I would be happy to see what I can do to accommodate that.
No, and that's why I agree with you that I believe that starting this process with the open meeting law violations is a good start. But I have to kind of respectfully disagree because, again, I really think that the open meeting law violations and the costs could have been probably not as high as they are, to be honest with you. This is only 1 year's worth of $15,300. I haven't even gone back to all the other ones, and I really just believe that we could be compiling responses from the attorney and start working a lot of this on our own.
And
So-
speaking of the open meeting law, we have on the agenda discussion on use of town council policy, but there's no real policy in front of us, so maybe like with the selection committee, we should take it one step at a time. Maybe you should
exactly.
develop a policy, run over it with Rick, because I don't think we should be taking a vote on that tonight,
Okay.
because we
Well,
might
that makes
violate the
sense.
open meeting law.
And I'm, again, more than happy to deal with the open meeting law in the fashion that, you know, that's been suggested, if there's no issues by the board in doing that. But like I said, my concern aren't those issues, Helen. My issues, my concerns are, you know, when you know, there's things that come up on a, you know, sometimes, you know, a couple times a week, sometimes maybe not as frequently, when you need to pick up the phone and you need answers and you need them quickly, and those, and, you know, depending on what those answers are, you know, could become a real
Right.
financial matter. So,
No, I understand.
so like I said, I don't, we can't be handcuffed in the ability to manage day to day.
Sure.
But I certainly don't have an issue with what you're suggesting with regard to the open meeting law complaints.
The open meeting law complaint is usually addressed to the Board of Selectmen, right? So,
Or
You-
to
you-
the, and again, or to any other board that may be the subject of a complaint.
no, but I mean for the ones for us.
Sure.
So that,
And again, keep in mind that, you know, just because people make complaints doesn't mean that there are violations.
no, I realize that.
And having the ability to appropriately respond is critical to, you know, especially, let's take, for example, and this is gonna be a bad one, but I'm gonna use it anyway, let's say, the zoning board of appeals, okay? You know, again, you have part-time volunteers, they don't have any full-time staff, and they are the subject of, and I know some of the issues that Helen's probably referring to are zoning board of appeals complaints.
No, I separated those out.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even include the zoning board of appeals
Okay.
violations.
And as a, you know, and so for asking part-time volunteers to respond to a complaint that has, you know, substantial legal ramifications, that's a little bit, you know, that's not very accommodating to the volunteers of the town. So, but once again, Helen, I have no problem picking up the phone and calling the chairman or vice chairman and saying, we've got this issue, this problem. This is how I would propose to handle it right now. Do you have any, I don't have any problem doing that.
Thank
What
you.
I'm just saying, but I just want to make sure that, you know,
Would
there
it
is
be a violation of the open meeting
Yes,
law for you to email us about impending legal?
As long as we didn't discuss it
Well,
among
and-
ourselves.
And again, that's why I'm suggesting maybe, Mike, you know, like a weekly or bi-weekly update on ongoing
Right.
things
Why
without.
don't we start with something like
and I-
that, and we can
I
take a
think
look
that
at a
would be
policy if Helen wants to do that. and-
Yeah, because I'd like to withdraw my motion because Jack Franny had a very valid point that
Yep.
this,
Talks about a policy, and we don't have one.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I didn't make mention of making a vote tonight.
But
So-
if we want to maybe go forward with the suggestion, and then,
Yeah.
and again, like
Yeah,
a
we'll
regular
see how it
update for
works
me.
and-
Yeah.
Is
you
that
know,
good?
That could
Yeah,
work out
I
well
like
for
that
everybody.
idea.
I think you were covered on the vote, Helen, because it says other
Oh,
items and
impossible
possible votes at the
votes.
top.
Yeah.
But I think we're doing the right thing by retracting that motion.
Yeah.
And let's take this.
And
Yeah, I
if
think
I
we
may,
can.
I think you're right, Mr. Chair, that if we don't take a vote and there's no discussion and we don't group email one another and Rick just sends us, here's for your information. And then if someone has a question, they could come in and
Right.
talk to Rick.
Right.
Just like some other like, for instance, you know, one of your public safety departments may give you a general update on stuff now and again. No discussion point,
Right.
no, I mean, certainly if anything came to the point where one of the chiefs needed some action by the board, that'd be,
Yeah.
so, that would, I think we could probably work something that might make people happy there.
Are we in agreement there? We don't need a
Yeah.
vote on that?
We don't.
We're all happy with that? Okay. All right, why don't we move on to the next item then, which in fact does deal with open meeting law violation complaints by Mr. John Fortier. And
Yes. Yeah, don't forget your December meeting schedule.
Yeah.
did I miss that?
Well, if you
Yes.
don't address it, we can't meet.
Oh, yeah. All right,
Thanks a lot.
before we do that, then let's talk about the December meeting schedule. I know it was proposed that we certainly don't want to meet on December 25th.
I get overtime on that day,
You
Mr.
think
Chairman.
anybody would be watching us?
No, because then we would have to exchange gifts, and they had to be under $50.
So,
Yeah.
the suggestion was that 2 weeks from the 4th is the 18th. That gives us ample time to have a meeting before Christmas and the holidays.
We'll go 4th and 18th.
4th and 18th, right. In between's the town meeting on the 6th, so.
Does that mean,
If that's acceptable to anybody,
does that mean you'll
everybody?
be booting the planning board out of the?
Possibly. It's nice to have rank once in a while.
Yeah.
And do we have a meeting on November 27th?
Negative,
No.
Because you're not here.
because of the 4th.
Yeah, you,
Don't
Okay,
blame it on
gotcha.
me,
Right.
because it's on the 4th.
Meeting, well, we get town meeting on the
Right.
6th. So we gotta act.
The 4th will give us an opportunity to firm everything up for town meeting, and then,
Okay.
Rick, can you manage that agenda, please?
Gonna do my best, Mr. Chairman.
Keep it light,
My
because
best.
the 6th may be lengthy, who knows, you know what I mean?
Yes.
All right.
So is
We
that
need a vote on that? Need a motion?
for December 18th?
December 18th?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion in 3 seconds. Any further discussion?
Nothing happens.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, now we're moving on to the open meeting law violation complaints by Mr. John Fortier. Mr. LaFond and I think Mr. Franny discussed these briefly the other day when we were in our meeting about other things. And Mr. LaFond was going to address these.
Yes, well, we had, the purpose of having it on the agenda is obviously so that there's some public acknowledgement.
Yep.
And for the purposes of this meeting, it would be good for you to vote to do something with them, whether to request that the chairman, the town administrator, or town council respond to these complaints. So really, it's a matter of what is your, I suspect it's not the 3rd at this point. But,
What I'll do is I'll read these first. The board conducted deliberations and took a vote on agenda item number 3 to disband the audit committee. The agenda did not include enough specifics to reasonably inform the public that deliberations and a vote would be taken to disband the committee, nullify the vote, properly inform the public, redeliberate, and revote at a later date. The other one is the board conducted deliberations and took a vote on reducing the building commissioner position from full-time to part-time. The agenda did not include enough specifics to reasonably inform the public that deliberations and a vote would be taken to change the position from a full-time to a part-time. And the recommendation is nullify the vote, properly inform the public, redeliberate, and revote at a later date.
so I get the question.
Pleasure of the board.
because,
I'm willing to make a motion if you want, just that we authorize the chair or the town administrator.
I had suggested the town
Okay,
administrator, just,
to
typically you
ask town
answer those.
council to help us respond to this.
I don't think at this point we need town
Quickly.
council, do we?
Well, I will also obviously confer with the chairman on the best approach to answering this, but,
If that's acceptable, Mr. LaFond and I can sit down and do that.
Because I believe on
That's
both
good.
of these agendas, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe both of them, we specifically said that there would be a possible vote. I remember that very much so on the audit committee. I'm almost positive we did on the board,
Building commissioner?
the building commissioner, but.
Okay, well,
no,
we
I
can
would, I think, like I said, it would be helpful if the chairman and I conferred
All right.
Yeah.
on what exactly the response would be.
Okay.
And we can do that within a week or so.
All right.
I'm sure.
If that's acceptable to the other members of the board,
It is.
can we get a motion on that? The chairman will resolve this with the town administrator.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Thank you for that. Citizens' participation. Mr. Belbin.
I know it's a very long night tonight.
It's been a long night for you. We appreciate your patience.
All right. On your meeting minutes, and you guys voted them in it said that Sarah Ewens recused herself from the audit committee vote. I'd like to know what is the reason specifically that she recused herself from the audit committee vote. Okay, what conflict did Sarah Ewens have? I think she never spelled out what the conflict is in that vote, and I think in order for you to recuse yourself, you have to state a purpose of why you're recusing yourself, if I'm right.
I don't, is this on the agenda? I mean, I don't know that it's appropriate for me to respond.
Mr. Chairman.
I think he's referring to the minutes that we approved, which are on the agenda, in which it says that you recused yourself from the vote. I'm sure that's what he's relying on.
But if he's asking me to respond to why I recused myself, that issue is not on the agenda.
Actually, if you watch the tape.
Should have been brought up that evening perhaps, but I don't know. Now you're into, it's your policy, so.
It's a gray area that I don't have any background in, so I have no idea.
It was actually, I think you, Mr. Chairman, had asked during this discussion of the changing of the meeting minutes about this, and during this meeting in here. And and that's why I wrote this down, because it was brought up in this meeting tonight about the changing of meeting minutes, about that discussion. So therefore, I mean, I feel it is. And I'm just, as a resident, I think I have a right to know the purpose that she recused herself from.
I think we already approved the minutes, but not only that I think we had specific guidelines that you could address things that came up as part of the meeting that were on the agenda, and that wasn't on the agenda. Only the approval of the minutes, and they've already been approved.
May I suggest you ask Selectman Hewens off camera? I mean, I'm not sure why this needs to be a public display.
I just don't see why it would have to be on camera or off camera. I think citizen participation, it was discussed tonight at the meeting.
Right, but
the
that's not
meeting
an
minutes
issue.
were on the
That's
agenda.
not an issue for the whole board. That's an issue for one select person specifically. I'm just saying, in the interest of time, why didn't you just ask her before the meeting, after the meeting, tomorrow, give her a call?
Well, I'm afraid she won't answer.
Bob, I don't,
To be honest.
I don't know I don't need
That's good.
know the legal rights of that question and whether we're extrapolating too far off course here from the minutes, you know what I'm saying, from the agenda. So I don't have an answer for you. If Ms. Hewens chooses not to address it, I don't know what to tell you. I can't get my billy club out and beat her and,
No, never,
never. Put the cuffs on her
Okay.
and stuff like, just doesn't work that way, Bob.
And just an FYI, last one is on the open meeting law complaints and whatnot. I think that communication is key with the open meeting law complaints that are in there. A simple admission, oops, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, instead of the denial. Mr. LaFawn brought up the situation of the zoning board, and I think he may have been talking about mine, or maybe not. Probably, more than likely, yes.
I'm not sure if there were any others.
But no matter what, if somebody requests information through the open meeting law, and you request it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and it gets denied, and then lo and behold, you finally get it, but it's way past the time. I mean, all you gotta do is admit, I'm sorry, I screwed up, okay? That saves a lot of time, okay? You don't have to go to town meeting, to the law firm for it, okay? The open meeting law says the chairman can reply. You don't have to go to town council. So I think that, like I said, the open meeting law is pretty clear. The Attorney General is very clear that they take it by the letter of the law. This is what it means, cut and dry. And if you need to go on and need to find different issues that they've already decided on, it's on the website of the AGO. All right, so I think communication, civility in government, okay, you get a complaint, just answer it nicely and say, hey, you're right, you know what, you may be right, we did do it, we're sorry. And it ends there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belvin. Anybody else? Mr. Fortier.
John Fortier, 76 Cranberry Road. At the October 16th meeting, the issue of appointees to boards and committees and whether they were sworn in or needed to be sworn in kind of came to a head. Since then, done a little bit of research and talked to some people, and kind of sounds like there's a lot of confusion in the town as to when people need to be sworn in, what the time frame they need to be sworn in. I think that there's a significant number of people who aren't sworn in on the boards. As a matter of fact, there's 3 of you up here that either have not been or thought that they didn't need to or delayed. And I think I'd like to ask the selectmen to have it on one of their agendas to discuss the
Policy of,
who and when and
I think that's an excellent idea. Absolutely.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Elaine, can we put that on the next agenda? And you're right, it'll clear up a lot of confusion for a lot of people.
certainly will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Any other citizens' participation? Is she awake? All right, we have the town administrator notes then, hearing no other citizens' participation.
I'm only going to raise one question, one issue, Mr. Chairman, in the interest of time, and that it appears that our efforts to try and find some quick regional solution to the building commissioner position isn't really panning out, so I'm going to be putting together a position description for a permanent part-time official. So that could change. If it does, I'll let you know, but that, unfortunately, my optimism has waned quite a bit on that we could do that. So just we'll keep you posted, though.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That's it, Rick?
It's after 11,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that's
All right.
why. I had a whole list, but...
We appreciate it. Why don't we start with Mr. Franny on the other end?
I have a list, but I'm not gonna read it.
Good.
All I'm
right.
gonna do is appeal and plead to people to come to the town meeting, a special town meeting on the 6th, and make sure you read about the solar bylaw, so you'll be well prepared, so that we can get through that meeting and get our tax rate set, move on from there.
Thank you. Ms. Ewens?
Thank you. I just have one quick thing, and I wanted to ask Rick if there's any guidance out there from Copeland and Page. Sometimes I know they write up little guidance sheets, memorandum for their towns on the rule of necessity, because that has come up in the recent past, and I'm just want to be sure that it's being done properly.
I'm sure they do. They have pretty much a primer on everything. I can go online or the vault and dig one up.
It may even be on, I'm sure it's online
Yeah, they might
somewhere.
have it online, too. So, you're looking for me to gift you something? Is that what you're looking to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably wouldn't be a
If
bad
there is
idea for all of
anything.
us.
Yeah,
Yep.
All right.
you might even find cases of other towns that had to address those
I'm not,
issues.
I'm not doing a big legal research here, Mr. Vice Chairman. I'm
Better-
just trying to get a...
Better than you and Copeland and Page, we can save the money.
Yeah, but I'm not sure you want to see my legal work, Mr.
Is that it, sir?
Yes.
May not be worth the money.
Mr. Wood?
Before next town meeting, we got Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Donation of food, this is the time of the year where, you know, the food pantry needs food. And I'm hearing different situations of people in need. One lady, middle-aged lady, came to the food pantry, got her food, climbed back on her bike to ride home. So, you know, those kinds of things ring a bell. So we always need to contribute to the food pantry.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of people out there having an extremely difficult time, and, you know, although the housing market may be improving, the job market supposedly improving, a lot of people are gonna have to play catch-up because they lost good-paying jobs and now work for less wages and less benefits and everything, and have less, you know, expendable income, so. That's an excellent point. Please dig down deep, check with your local churches, your food pantries, the Council on Aging, and do whatever you can to help out. Thank you. Ms. Maroney?
Just quick, I had a great opportunity to stop by the Council on Aging on Saturday to visit with the Carver veterans who were having breakfast there. And I want to thank the Cub Scouts that came to honor the veterans, and they put on some fun skits for the veterans. But most important, I want to thank the veterans that I had the opportunity to sit down and chat with, to tell their personal stories about World War II, Vietnam, Korea, etc. I had tears in my eyes because it's an emotional weekend for me anyway, and I just want all those veterans out there to know that you've inspired me even more to continue in politics, to fight for the liberties and freedoms that you gave us. So thank you, and on that note, happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you. Elaine, I didn't want to forget you. Is there anything you'd like to say to your adoring public out there?
Nothing she can say on television.
Last, and probably the least, me. And I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, echo what Mr. Ward said, and all the members of the board feel the same way. Busy travel time of the year, weather's starting to change a little bit. Just be careful, you know, have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Also, I'd like to ask you, as I always do, to keep members of our military serving around the world in your thoughts and prayers. Hopefully we can bring them all home safe here in the not-too-distant future. God bless you, God bless the town of Carver, and God bless America. Thank you and good night.